across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be with you for 3 thrilling hours of breaking news, provocative views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get it off your chest and call me on 03444991000 or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That is, of course, as long as you keep it clean, family show and all that. Anyway, it is Thursday, the 10th of April. Here's what's coming up. As national fury mounts after Labour's disgraceful decision to deprive the people and the victims of any inquiries into the rape gang scandal, tonight I'll talk to a traumatised victim whose story of horror will shock you. That is in an hour's time at 8 o'clock. Please let me know what you think about the government axing the 5 local inquiries they promised us and why you believe Keir's Craven crew have done this. Why do you think they've done this? Is it because the grooming gangs were Muslim men of Pakistani origin and Labour is terrified of offending the Islamic community because they need the Muslim vote? Is it because many of these gangs operated in local areas that were Labour administrations? Is that what this is about? Are Labour, is this government playing politics with the worst sexual scandal in British history? I think they are. And that is an absolute disgrace. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. In other news, more parole madness as driller killer Jake Farry is up for release yet again. This dim thug murdered gentle giant schoolboy Jimmy Mizzen. He was only 16 for no reason at all. Then broke the terms of his licence the last time they let him out. They let him out in January after 14 years of a life sentence. The silly sod went off and made a video in an area that he was banned from, and the lyrics of the song that he recorded, he fancies himself as a drill rapper, were all about how he killed Jimmy. So they put him straight back in jail. Now they're going to let him out again. I mean, what is going on? What is going on? He got life. Why can't that mean life? 0344 499 1000. Don't forget all the other egregious examples of the parole board letting people out. Double murderer Colin Pitchford, who was found hanging around a girls' school 2 weeks later. Gary Glitter, of course. They tried to let out the taxi rapist John Warboys. Luckily, the government stepped in and stopped it. What is wrong with the parole board, and why do we have this mania about releasing dangerous people? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, after this show exclusively revealed yesterday that Britain's wokest police force is blocking white Brits from applying to be police officers, a top barrister says that the West Yorkshire Force's ethnics-only policy breaks British racial equality laws. Isn't this a clear case of racism? Only ethnics need apply, no whites are allowed? That's racism, isn't it? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Plus, Olympic legend Sharon Davis joins me to talk about the top golfer. So it's the Masters, you know, the greatest tournament in all of golf, if you ask me. Beautiful tournament over there in Georgia in America. One of the people taking part, one of the players taking part, has just served a 30-month jail sentence for serial beating of women. Violently attacked several of his girlfriends. He's playing in that tournament. Critics say he should have been banned. Do you think they're right? 0344 499 1000. And finally, the latest on the Harry and Meghan psychodrama. Her new podcast is boring beyond belief, that's only to be expected, and he's still obsessively fighting to get armed police protection whenever he visits Britain. Why doesn't he give up this forlorn lost cause? Why is he so fixated on it? It's kind of weird. 0344 499 1000. Our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield, is poised to deliver her verdict. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together. And after her fantastic appearance last night, she was the one who broke this incredible story. I mean, it's not incredible, it's a shocking and it's a bad story about West Yorkshire Police and what I think is a kind of racist, definitely discriminatory policy. No whites need apply to be police officers there at the moment. She broke that last night. But so it's Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor, and she's back with us again for the first hour. Welcome, Isabel.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, there's been quite a reaction to this story, hasn't there? And I was interested to hear, this new legal opinion on what West Yorkshire Police are doing, because, of course, they're adamant that everything they're doing is within the law, and they've evidently studied the law to see just how far they can go and perhaps stretch it without getting into any kind of trouble. I've been contacted by a few people, and one of them told me that it's not just white candidates who've failed to get jobs in West Yorkshire Police that are pretty upset by this, but there are also police within the force, so those who've already got jobs, who are pretty frustrated because they feel that they are being passed over for promotion as ethnic minorities are prioritised. Now, that's not something I've looked into yet. I'm sure West Yorkshire Police will vociferously deny it, but I look forward to hopefully more information coming our way on those allegations.
Well, let's cover this story now. In a little while, I want to talk about the Parole Board and yet another egregious case of trying to release someone they shouldn't be trying to release. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's dwell on this story since we brought the subject up. Yeah, as we discussed last night, it's clear that Britain's wokest police force, for that is what West Yorkshire Police undoubtedly are. They spend nearly £1.5 million a year on diversity roles. Their head of diversity, who has nothing to do with crime fighting, earns £91,000 a year. They've got about 15, 20 full-time diversity workers, so they're incredibly woke in that direction. And now I think they think they're being woke and forward thinking basically by stopping white people applying to be coppers because they say they want to get the racial balance right, and they've got too many whites. They've got 23% of the local population up there are apparently of ethnic origin, and only 9% of the cops are of ethnic minorities. So they're trying to redress that balance. Now, as you implied there, Isabel, what's clear from their statement that they gave you yesterday, in which they confirmed exactly what your story was? They're prioritising people of ethnic origin, people of colour, over white people. In that reply, it became very clear that they have gone into the equality law with lawyers to come up with a reason to justify what they're doing legally. Now, every time lawyers do that, yes, you can come up with an argument. Lawyers are good at that. But you will find there'll be other lawyers who can go into the same law and say, well, actually, this is breaking the law. And we've got a lawyer later who's going to say just that. And I've got to say, it struck me, if you look up the legal definition of discrimination, it is illegal to discriminate against anyone on the grounds of their race, creed or colour, the colour of their skin. They are discriminating against white people. And that is a skin colour problem. And therefore, I think that our lawyer friend later is going to have a point.
Well, this is exactly what we were talking about last night. they are doing it to the extent of allegedly colour coding candidates. And we talked about this last night. Certain ethnic groups are branded gold. The next level down is silver. And guess where we whites are? We're at the bottom of the pile. We're not black, we are bronze.
Yeah, we're the rubbish old bronze ones, aren't we? Yes, yes. Now, this, as again last night, but it's worth bringing it up again. This is the same police force. You did a lot of work up in the Hare Hills area. You know that district well. That's where this riot erupted. Funny enough, not long before the summer riots. They were a kind of prelude to the big summer riots. This was for a different reason, but it was ethnic unrest, an ethnic riot. The West Yorkshire police went into that area. The whole area was going up in flames. They stood around for about 10 minutes and then they pulled out for 5 hours and let the ethnic rioters get on with it. So there's that problem. What on earth were they thinking? And it turns out that while they're polishing their woke credentials, their virtue signalling halos, West Yorkshire police are presiding over one of the worst rates of soaring crime in the country. They're way above the national average. Last year, there were more than 300,000 crimes committed in that area, and their solving rate is pathetic. So they're spending a lot of time being woke and right on, signalling their virtue, polishing their halos, but they're not doing much about crime, which I think sums up modern policing in this country, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the core offer of Yorkshire Police, their whole reason for existing is to solve and prevent crime. You know, actually, their reason for existing and the basis on which they're publicly funded has nothing to do with whether they've got a rainbow-coloured lineup of staff or whether their staff are all white or all black or all brown or all pink. You know, that isn't part of what they are there to do in terms of serving a community. And we were saying last night, you know, most people, I don't think most victims of crime, frankly, give a monkey's what colour the police officer is that deals with it. They just want someone to deal with it. And, you know, across the country, crime solving rates are woeful. You know, when you look at these statistics, they're often in the kind of low single figures in some areas and some types of crime. And you just wonder how on earth it is that this allocation of time and resources and budget can possibly be justified. And, you know, we're focusing hard here on West Yorkshire Police, but I bet you there are umpteen other forces across the country that are guilty of this as bad or worse. You know, I hear a lot of frustration within the Met about all sorts going on in there, and working on that to bring us more stories from inside the Met in London. It's not just a West Yorkshire Police thing, although they are a particularly embarrassingly awful example.
Yeah, I mean, it's a global phenomenon. The woke lefties, this is one of their choruses, you know, that police forces, fire brigades should somehow or other exactly ethnically reflect the communities that they serve. So if there's not 23% ethnic people in West Yorkshire, then, oh my God, it's imperative that the police force has 23% ethnic people. I mean, you know, I suppose in some ways that's quite a nice idea, but it's not paramount. It's not that important. And what is wrong is that policing, candidates to become police officers, should be chosen on one basis. That is their excellence, their aptitude for the job. Will they be good at the job? What is going on now in West Yorkshire Police, and they admit it, is first of all, white people can't even get to be interviewed. But even if they are, they're likely to be rejected for ethnic reasons. You know, I'm sorry, you're a great candidate, but we've got these quotas. We've got to get to 23%. So we're not going to choose you. We're going to choose this worse qualified guy who's from an ethnic community. That's what's going on. And that is dangerous to the public. Policemen should be chosen, policemen and women should be chosen purely on their ability, their aptitude for the jobs, not the colour of their skin.
Can I just add one thing that I found quite amusing, but is just a kind of symbolic of the whole situation? So apparently, you and I have been talking a lot here about ethnic minorities, but apparently West Yorkshire Police is so woke that some people within West Yorkshire Police actually refer to ethnic minorities as the global majority. I kid you not.
Oh, yeah, that's the new thing, isn't it? The global
So
majority.
we're now the minorities, Kev. You know,
Yeah.
white people are now minorities because the global majority is not white.
So let me ask the audience, they come up with a new term, don't they, every single day. I just want to ask the audience, because we need to get a conversation going about this, your thoughts. I mean, I know we've done this story and we're doing it again now, but it still is shocking that a police force in this country is currently preventing white British people from applying to become coppers. Only ethnic people need apply. That's what's happening in Britain. Now, as I said, we're going to talk to a lawyer later. I say they will say this is positive discrimination. I say it's just discrimination. I say it's racism against white people. What do you think? 03444991000. When we come back, we'll talk about this driller killer, Jake Farry, the nasty little wannabe drill rap star who murdered a schoolboy, and the parole board seems to be obsessed with releasing him onto the streets. I say he got a life sentence. Let life mean life. Chuck the key away. You'll find out after the break why I'm saying that. So we will deal with that issue after these messages. Stay where you are.
This is the sense of passport pilfering by the Home Office, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at a family of, two adults, 2 children, it's now a passport's going to...
Council in Madoc, haven't you?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You've got to get them all in there.
Well, you've got to get Rotherham Police in Madoc. Why did you not act? Etc. So it has to have statutory powers. I am told on good authority that there will be an announcement coming on Monday of a new course of action that I think will lead down the judicial review path. So something is about to happen that may be more substantial.
Well, certainly a lot of people would very much welcome that.
Jake Farry went online, was wearing a balaclava, was talking about this music in drill, and honestly, if there's anybody watching who has kids or grandkids who listen to drill music, get them away from it as quickly as possible. The kind of lyrics that this scumbag was putting out online was things like "stuck it on a man and watched him melt like Ben and Jerry's," "sharpen up my
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, let's talk about this dim thug murderer. His name is Jake Farry. He's a wannabe drill star, a drill rap star. Now, way back in about 2009, he walked into a bakery and sat there. He is, lovely little guy. Really thick as well. I'll explain this in a while. He walked into a bakery in southeast London where there's this nice gentle giant school kid called Jimmy Mizzen, busy buying himself a pie. There he is. Looks like a nice kid, doesn't he? 16 years old. This little piece of dirt killed him, murdered him. Just looking for a fight with the big guy, you know. He threw a perspex at him, severed his artery, leaving his parents distraught. His mother still campaigns against violence on the street after that horrible event, after losing her son. Now, Jake Farry got life. They let him out last year, June 23. They let him out after 14 years. The parole board said, "All right, we'll let him out." Right. Part of his license, release license, was he couldn't go into the borough of Greenwich because that's where the Mizzen family live. That's where he committed his murder, and he's got all these kind of gangster friends there. So he wasn't allowed in there. So he went straight back in to the borough of Greenwich and filmed a drill rap video with another one of his pathetic songs. There he is. This is it. Of course, they go, "Well, you've just broken the terms of your release. Sorry, mate, you're going straight back in." So he went back into prison. They're going to let him out again now. The parole board are ready to let him out again. By the way, this song that you're seeing, this video that he made, these are some of the lyrics. Eat your heart out, Wordsworth. Forget it, Shakespeare. There's a new bard in town. Right, ready? Swing around a blade when I promised Mum I'd never touch a knife again. Never understood a life till you took a life. Look in the mirror, now you look alive. Look in the mirror, can you look inside? Then he goes on to say about head gone, chest gone, blades out, flesh gone. Over there, Donny liked to stare. He got stepped on. This is a reference to him murdering that guy. That song, by the way, that elicited from the BBC a lot of praise. On one of their channels, they said, "Oh, this guy, this rap star is one to watch." Anyway, as soon as the Sun newspaper saw this video and they put it on their front page, and of course our master criminal friend here, Jake Farry, was back inside within seconds. So he's back in jail. Now they're trying to let him out again. They're trying to let him out again. He's only done 14 and a half years of a life sentence. I think in the case of this guy, what about life meaning life? Certainly another 10 years. What is this parole board's mania with letting people out? You know, you got Colin Pitchforth. Do you remember him? The guy who murdered and raped two schoolgirls while his baby was in the back of his own car. There he is, lovely guy. They let him out a couple of years ago. He was found 2 weeks later hanging around outside of a girls' school. So he had to go back in. Then, of course, there's the famous Gary Glitter. 16 years for serial child abuse, sexual child abuse, let out after 8 years, found pretty swiftly afterwards at a halfway house, going through the dark web, looking at pictures of little kids, back in jail. John Warboys, the taxi rapist, back in the early noughties. The parole board tried to let him out. There he is. Serial rapist. Thank God the government stepped in and managed to stop that. But this parole board, what is wrong with it? What is its obsession with letting out these very dangerous people? Jake Farry should remain behind bars, don't you think?
Oh, I mean, some people just show no remorse, do they? And if there's some other forum in which he's shown remorse, I don't think the public have been made aware of it. And that song, I actually remember you and I talking about this when the story broke about that song, and the BBC, yet another BBC blunder, you know, praising it to high heaven. And my feeling on it hasn't changed. You know, somebody who can celebrate murder and knife crime in that way has got something very wrong with them. And yeah, I know it's a bit of a cool and trendy thing to do in certain communities to boast like that, but if you've actually done the murder, then it's probably not that wise to act as if you think this is a something to highlight, really, is it? It shows as you said, being very, very thick apart from anything else. How is this guy to be trusted not to have more victims?
Yeah, absolutely more lyrics from this awful song, right? He says, this is about him killing poor little Jimmy. Well, I say little. Jimmy was a big kid, very big kid, gentle giant, lovely kid apparently. His mother, Margaret, remains distraught to this day, as you'd expect. Such a terrible story, when that happens to a kid from a loving family. He was looking for a fight with a big kid. You know what these little thugs are like, Look at me beating up the big guy. So more of these lyrics. See a man's soul fly from his eyes and his breath gone. I wanted more, it made it less wrong. Seeing blood spilt on the same floor he was left on. Then he goes on, this is about when he went to court, to the Old Bailey. I don't talk because I'm signed to the streets. Tough guy, eh? Went to court, put my hand on that book and lied through my teeth. And so on and so forth. Wow. And the parole board want to let him out. Not for the first time. We got to do something about the parole board.
And we've got to do something about normalising knives and knife carrying. I mean, it is just astonishing the extent to which this culture, it's a kind of subculture, has become quite mainstream in certain groups of people and amongst certain age groups and so on. And, it isn't harmless. I really don't believe it is harmless to normalise and even celebrate this type of behaviour in this way. I think it's got to have an effect. And tomorrow morning, I think on Mike's show, we're going to be bringing you a little snapshot, potentially, of the kind of impact that this has.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Margaret is a fantastic woman who's campaigned ever since against knives, against violence on the street. But as I say, this is a normal, loving family. I think he had a brother, nice, normal family in southeast London, and this happens. And the monster, the animal who did it, the parole board want to mollycoddle. Oh, let him out, let him out. He got life. How about making it life? 14 years. Do me a favour.
And he's a coward as well, isn't he? Because you can see that because he's being very, very careful not to show his features there and somehow thinks it's cool to cover his entire face and put on a stupid pair of sunglasses over the top of it's not even a balaclava, is it? Because it doesn't even have eyes.
No. But he didn't get away with it because everybody knew it was him anyway. You could tell from his voice, and of course he put it out as like a single. It's as I say, last of the master criminals. Straight back inside. Good decision at last. Leave him inside. Leave him inside. Let me ask the audience: what do you think should happen to Jake Fari? Perhaps. BBC One Extra, the guys at the BBC One Extra pop channel, they hailed his talent as one to watch. So thanks to the BBC for that one. Listen, Isabel, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the rape gang inquiry, which Labour have cancelled, or the inquiries, and another surprising inquiry that has been cancelled. That was an inquiry into the mismanagement of Birmingham by its Labour council. Gee, wonder why the Labour government decided to call that inquiry off. Any thoughts? 03444991000. We'll talk about that after this break.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, we talked last night about the rape gang scandal and Labour's shocking decision to axe the 5 local inquiries that they had promised us. This, of course, came after the whole nation rose up in fury in January and said, you owe us a national public inquiry into the worst sexual crime scandal this nation has ever seen. They said, oh, no, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll give you 5 local inquiries, 5 million quid. You know, reluctantly we went, all right then. Wasn't nearly good enough because actually this was not a local issue. This was going on all over the country. And as you pointed out last night, it's pretty certain it still is going on. These are rape gangs. These are predominantly Muslim men of Pakistani origin. There's a racial element to this. They preyed on vulnerable young white girls. And there are thought to be 250,000 victims who deserve justice. So the Labour government at first deprived us of a national inquiry, a national public inquiry. Then they said, well, we'll give you 5 locals. Not good enough. We've got the whole country, but okay. And then, of course, a couple of days ago, we heard them trying to slip it in under the carpet just as Parliament was going to recess. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, we're not going to have those inquiries after all. The Minister for Violence Against Women, Safeguarding, Jess Phillips, stands accused of, shockingly giving up the cause of her life. She has worked very hard in that area, impressively, but now she's just become a government goon who, has gone along with this awful decision that deprives not only the nation of the justice it deserves, we deserve this, but more importantly, so do the 250,000 vulnerable white girls who were raped, sexually abused, treated like animals, tortured, given drugs, drink. It's just the most harrowing story. As a matter of fact, we're going to have another victim on. We had one last night. We've got another very brave woman who's going to come on at 8 o'clock, and her story is truly, truly shocking. And when you hear these stories, you go, come on, Labour, you owe us something here. But they've blocked them. They blocked the inquiries, and we know why, don't we? 2 reasons. One, most of the local areas where these abominations, where these horrors unfolded, were Labour administrations, in which teachers, police, social workers, local politicians all ignored the pleas of these young girls. We're being raped, we're being tortured. Oh, hang on, well, that will get us in a bit of trouble with the Muslim community. We don't want to be accused of Islamophobia. And, you're from the council estate, you're that type of girl. That's what happened. It's an absolute disgrace. So that was the other reason, that Labour are terrified of Islamophobia accusations, and they need the Muslim vote. So they're playing politics with this. Absolutely disgraceful. But Labour have got into a bit of a pattern here. There's a picture emerging. There was going to be an inquiry into what has gone wrong in Birmingham Council. What has gone wrong in Birmingham? By the way, that's a Labour council. They've dropped that inquiry. They've dropped the inquiry. So just to recap the story, in September 2023, suddenly and shockingly, Birmingham Council, Britain's second city, basically announced, we're in a bit of trouble, we're going bankrupt. They had a £760 million equal pay bill because they've been disgracefully not paying women the same amount as they were paying men, and they'd lost a big legal case, so they had to make that shortfall up, 760 million quid. They also had a botched IT upgrade costing 80 million quid, and that was completely wasted. So it was all of their own making. When this scandal erupted, I remember it well. People go, what? The council leader, Labour leader, handpicked by Keir Starmer, a guy called John Cotton. He was in New York celebrating his 50th birthday. In January, what we're seeing now, you know, this city falling apart at the seams, the piles of rubbish because of the dustman strike. In January, against the backdrop of everything I've just said, the councillors voted themselves an inflation-busting 5.7% pay rise in their allowances. It's neck deep in rat-infested garbage thanks to this strike. The backdrop I've just outlined, Labour has decided there will be no inquiry into this Labour council's dreadful mismanagement. It's just blatant, isn't it? It's so appalling, so annoying.
And why they think that voters can't see that, I don't know. There's a mounting speculation this evening that Labour is going to be forced into a U-turn on their U-turn, and that there may be a significant announcement on the rape gangs, the grooming gangs, early next week, possibly on Monday. I don't know anything more than that, but there is a feeling that any attempt to kind of, you know, for people to do their own inquiry, or which, you know, I can understand why there's an appetite for that. If the government can't do it, someone surely else has to. But it may be that that becomes academic if the government actually see the error of their ways. The difficulty, I think, for any independent inquiry, as it were, that isn't government backed, is it wouldn't have statutory powers, and you really need to be able to actually put people, you know, basically the equivalent of subpoena them, as they say in America, make them give evidence. So I hope that there will be some form of proper investigation, because the scale of this just absolutely beggars belief. You know, only 250,000 victims. I mean, think of that relative to a football stadium. You know, just think of that as to how many people that actually is. It's a vast number of poor, innocent little. These were children. You know. Well,
this very brave woman that we had on last night, called Elizabeth. She said that she was lured into, you know, the den of iniquity, if you like, by some woman, funnily enough, who was linked to a rape gang.
So often the case. Yeah,
who said, "Oh, come and have a drink, you know, come on, you know, try this pill," and all this kind of stuff. And before she knew where she was kept imprisoned in an apartment in Rotherham for 10 weeks, where she was subjected to the most horrific torture, rape, sexual abuse, treated like an animal. When she finally got out, she called the police. She kept calling the police. She was dismissed as, well, you're that type. More to the point, the police did not want to get involved in upsetting the Islamic community. They didn't want to be accused of racism. We know the story there. The only thing that happened while she was desperately trying to tell the police her harrowing story was they came and arrested her dad. You know, it's just, and this is the, you know, it's horror upon horror, but one of the most sort of upsetting aspects of this is these poor girls, so many of them phoning the police. I've been raped, I've been sexually abused, I've been kept prison. Oh yeah, boom. The police completely turned a blind eye. They told their teachers, turned a blind eye. They told local councillors, turned a blind eye. They told social workers, turned a blind eye. That's the story, and that's why this nation, 2 days ago, when they learned that Labour was axing all inquiries into that, rose up in fury, and that fury is mounting still. And you're right, if what you're saying is correct, perhaps Labour have finally read the room and realised they can't do this. They cannot deprive us of an inquiry.
I mean, you'd hope so. You really would hope so, because I think politically this has just been yet another disaster. And we talk about this often. I mean, how this government makes the decisions it does and thinks that there isn't going to be a massive backlash. I don't know. It's a bit like, whether it's the winter fuel allowance. I think you were saying you think one thing's going to be the poll tax moment, and then it's another, and then it's another. And, any one of these is politically disastrous. But to do one after the other, and the scale of this one is just horrific. And it's just so obvious that they don't want to go there for their own political survival. It's horrible.
It really is, as I say, two reasons. One is where most of these horrific events unfolded, it was a Labour administration, a Labour local council. So Labour doesn't like that. And the other is that the Labour government in this respect, in my view, is just repeating the awful crimes of all of those people, those middle-class, guilt-ridden people who turned their back in the first place for the reason that, we don't want to be accused of Islamophobia or racism. If we go after gangs of Muslim men of Pakistani origin, we might look Islamophobic and racist, so we can't do that. So Labour is repeating the crime.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, the courage it would have taken for those victims to actually ring the police, to try to report what was going on in their lives and what had happened to them, only to be rebuffed everywhere they turned, is just horrific. And we're looking forward to your interview with a victim, just to hear, how does anyone move on with their lives after such a level of trauma? I mean, it must take so much to actually ever put that in any way behind you. Of course, you're never going to get over it.
Well, check it out, Isabel. So Elizabeth last night, very brave woman, intelligent woman, So I said to her, after she'd told us her really, really, truly upsetting story, I said, so how are you now? And she actually does a lot of work helping the victims of sexual violence. So she's a great woman. I said, so how are you now? I mean, is there a man in your life? Are you married? Do you have children? Romance? She said, oh, no, that could, after what happened to me, that could never be in my life. So that's how, apart from, the trauma she suffered, she's ruined for life. No marriage, no relationship. She can't do it. So it's not just the physical, sexual rape, abuse at the time that is, of course, incredibly punishing. It is the fact they're ruined for life. All of these girls are ruined for life. It's a disgrace that Labour are trying to sweep this under the carpet.
And I think most MPs, not all of them, but of course not all of them, but most MPs and politicians, members of the House of Lords, don't live in the kind of areas and communities and the most deprived places where this could be possible. So they just can't understand, they can't relate to it, and they just rather not really know about it. And that's why I think there was so much shock amongst some of the kind of ruling classes, as it were, that this could possibly have happened, because it is so alien to the way that most policymakers and most of our leaders live. They can't imagine how this could happen in communities. Now, here's the irony. The one person, one or two Labour people that do really understand these communities, one of which is Jess Phillips.
Yeah, Jess Phillips, by the way, I'll just offer you this little pop fact by way of interest. Represents a constituency. If she loses the Muslim vote, she loses her seat. It's as simple as that. Same for Angela Rayner, funnily enough. All these senior Labour politicians who rely on the Muslim vote seem to go very easy on Muslims when they do things wrong. And that is a snapshot of the entire Labour Party. Labour know that at the next election they're going to need the Muslim vote. There are 4 million Muslims in this country. Obviously not all of them are old enough to vote, but there's sort of 3 million or so votes in this for Labour, and they need it. And that's why time and time again you see them sort of going out of their way not to offend the Muslim community. Not saying You know, it's nothing against Muslims, but there's something weird going on, and we know what it is. And Labour have got to raise their game, because the game is up, I think. Listen, by the way, at 8 o'clock, I take no relish in this, but when we talk to our victim, it's going to be extremely bad news for Labour, and particularly bad news for Jess Phillips. It really, really is. You will not believe what our guest has to say. So that's coming up at 8 o'clock. In the meantime as well, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about the latest farce in the ongoing comedy that is Britain's migrant crisis. Stick around.
This is the sense of passport pilfering by the Home Office, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at a family of, you know, two adults, 2 children, it's now a passport's going to be around £330.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount of money to add on to the costs, increasing costs that we've got for holidays, VATs that are being increased for people across the country, and a burden that is not necessary if we actually reduce those people coming to this country across the channel.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. It's time for us to return to the migrant crisis. Was it 2 days ago? I think 432 more illegal migrants crossed the Channel illegally to be welcomed into the bosom of Britain, given 45 quid a week, free hotels and all that, as the government continues to do the square root of damn all about it, and still they come. Today we learn the sensational results of two-tier Kia's amazing smash the gangs strategy. After 9 months of impressive vigilance by Starmer's crack border security command, no gangs have been smashed, but this just in. 5 people have been convicted of piloting small boats across the Channel this year, which takes the total number of people guilty of this offence to a staggering 17. That's it. That's it. So far, 5 people this year convicted of piloting these boats. Now, this is a kind of a dubious crime anyway, or a dubious situation, because it's pretty well known. It's not really the people smugglers who get into these boats. What they do is they depute one of the migrants. They teach them how to drive the boat. So they're the ones who get nicked. It's not the people smugglers. It's a migrant who's been trained up to take the boat across the channel. So it's really pretty slim pickings in terms of Keir's massive drive to solve our migrant crisis. 5 probable migrants behind the steering wheels of small boats. Pretty good,
dear,
eh?
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. And I would be surprised if all these convictions, you may tell me otherwise, but I'd be surprised if all of these actually date to the Keir Starmer's regime. I mean, knowing how agonisingly slow justice is, unless you happen to be a so-called far-right thug, these cases have probably dragged on for many, many months, possibly since well before this woeful Labour administration. And that's very interesting about the who actually pilots these boats, because of course it's not going to be the gangmasters,
exactly,
is it?
Exactly.
Because they'd have to be processed themselves, and then they wouldn't be able to carry on with their behaviours, would they? I mean, they've basically got to contract it out, and no doubt you get a bit of a discount on your crossing if you're the one that's going to be in charge of getting the vessel as near as
exactly how it works. It's exactly how it works.
Yeah. I mean, this is woeful. And we need to work out how much taxpayers' money per convict we've got there, because it'll be millions, literally millions per conviction. Absolutely disgraceful. It really is.
And I think we've now, with the 432 migrants across the channel 2 days ago, I think that takes us over 7,000 this year. I mean, I'm tempted to say that's a record, but it's more like that's a record because it is, way over anything we've ever seen before. An absolute shocking indictment of Keir Starmer and Calamity Cooper's policies. They're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. It's just getting worse and worse.
I mean, how many times do we need to say this? You've either got to turn back the boat safely, or you've got to detain people in the UK and then deport them forthwith. No ifs or buts. You've just got to be absolutely zero tolerance about this, because this is just going to get bigger and bigger. It's not going to go away, is it? I mean, I hear nothing from the government about how they plan to make it go away, because it's completely illogical to try to make it go away by, as Keir Starmer puts it, smashing the vile people smuggling gangs. There's unlimited
the evil people smuggling guns.
Unlimited.
Yeah, and these separate gangs, this isn't their total amount, but a single gang, some of these bigger gangs, they're estimated to be making hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Hundreds of millions of pounds a year. You talked earlier about the special dispensation given to the migrants. They teach how to steer the boat. Well, they're also offering, so thriving is their business, they're now offering VIP packages, sort of club cast tickets with more leg room and so on and so forth. It's unbelievable.
I mean, I've no doubt you can also get, 3 for the price of 2, or, 2 for the price of 1 in some vessels. This is how it's going to be, buy a group travel ticket. I mean, it's just extraordinary that it should ever have got to where we are now. And I remember reporting on the first boat that came over, and it was a kind of little canoe with a couple of blokes in it, and I remember this. It was about 2016, and I was thinking, this is a really, really bad sign. That was the point right early on, years ago, when this started, that the government should have said, we are having none of this.
Yeah. Well, do you remember Sajid Javid, when he was the Home Secretary, declaring a national emergency? If I remember rightly, it was after about a month. Something like 419 or something had come over in a month. and he declared a national emergency. I mean, 2 days ago we had 432 in a day, and we have had quite a few days now where there's been more than 1,000. So this hasn't just been gently increasing, it's rocketing, and it's getting worse, and Labour's policies are just wrong. I don't think they actually care that much, but if they did care, they wouldn't be talking about smashing the gangs. They'd be talking about stopping the migrants. Only one way to smash the gangs: stop the migrants. And you stop the migrants by not giving them any deterrence. Or not giving them any enticements, but giving them deterrence. The kind of best deterrent I would suggest might be, how about we turn the boats around in the middle of the channel, or alternatively deport and detain. Detain and deport. Once you get here, you've broken our laws, we'll detain you, then we deport you. Once you get that message, like in Australia, they'll stop coming. But I suspect that Keir and his sort of North London Guardian reading friends, deep down, or not even deep down, don't particularly want to solve this crisis. They rather like the idea of open borders.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're not that interested in solving it, or they'd be being more proactive rather than just standing up and making announcements and saying they're doing things and hey, by the way, whatever came of that round table meeting with representatives from 40 countries, where was a great policy idea out of that? I haven't heard anything anymore. Do you remember the summit?
Yes, I do. By the way, what about a story I discussed with Rod Little a couple of days ago? At last, we can see the physical evidence of what happened to the £500 million we gave France to patrol their own beaches. They've set up a flimsy barrier across a road 3 kilometres west of Calais. It's a single thing. It's in a flat field. You can drive round it. And in any case, they keep it open during the day. They only close it at night. As Lee Anderson said, so you can still break into Britain as long as you turn up between dawn and dusk. That's what we've got for our 500 billion quid. A single barrier that is easily got round. It's pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like that £100 million bat tunnel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, totally and utterly pointless. It's a disgrace. The French have been completely and utterly treacherous on this, and I don't think we should be giving them a penny more. And actually, worse than that, not only should we not give them a penny more, I think we should sue them to give back the money that they have completely demonstrably failed to use to our benefit, to mutual benefit. We should be asking for that back now.
Yes, good. They've ripped us off. Let's sue them and let them know where we stand.
What Trump would do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Good old Donald. Isabel, what a fantastic couple of days. It's always a pleasure. We'll talk again next week. Thank you so much for your powerful input into this show. Isabel Oakeshott there, Talks International editor. Now, as I say, brace yourself. When we come back after the news, we're going to be talking to a victim of the grooming gang scandal. You won't want to miss it, but it is very harrowing, so stick around. Bye.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Welcome to the second hour of tonight's Political Asylum. In a little while, I'll be asking a lawyer what he thinks about West Yorkshire Police's policy to prevent white people from applying to become police officers, coppers, in that area in West Yorkshire. He thinks it may be illegal. He thinks it's against our racial equality laws. Certainly seems like discrimination to me. People not allowed to apply to be coppers on the basis of the colour of their skin. That's racism, isn't it? Yeah, that in 20 minutes or so. We'll be taking your calls at 8:30, so that's in about half an hour or so. And after that, very pleased to say, I'll be joined by Olympic swimming legend, sporting legend, Sharon Davis. We want to talk about the Football Association's new decision to continue to allow blokes to play football against women, trans women, in other words, blokes will be allowed to carry on competing against real women, biological women in football. It's special, isn't it? Well, why do they allow this? Why do they allow this? Also, I want to ask her, the Masters, the greatest tournament in golf in my view, it's currently on the TV, beautiful golf course called Augusta in Georgia. All the best golfers in the world competing for one of the most prestigious trophies in all of golf, if not the most. One of the contestants is an Argentine guy called Abel Cabrera, has won that tournament in the past. Well, he's back in the tournament, and he's coming to Augusta on the back of a 30-month jail sentence for serial beating up of his girlfriends. Not just one, beating up his girlfriends. So he's a serial wife beater, convicted and jailed. A lot of people say he should not be. He's a great golfer, but they say he shouldn't be allowed to be in that tournament. So I'll ask Sharon what she thinks about that as well. It is quite extraordinary if you think about it. He won a seniors tournament last week, but he's back in the game. Anyway, we'll talk about that towards the end of the hour. But as I say, before we get to any of that, very importantly, we're going to go to a victim of the grooming gang scandal, and she's a very brave woman called Ellie Reynolds, and she's from Barrow. Ellie, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, look, you know, I've read the court story about one of your tormentors, one of your torturers, who during his court case, he quite rightly got jailed. It was revealed that you believed that you were raped 22 times, but you fear it could have been worse than that because they kept drugging you up and you were in such a drug state you're not even quite sure how many times you were abused in that way. Would that be a fair representation of your the essence of your story?
I would say the amount of times over a 5-year period were completely uncountable. I think what annoyed me more about that was that he was convicted for other people. However, there were still many others on the sideline that weren't believed, myself being one of them. Thankfully, he did get a lengthy sentence, and rightly so, but there is still a lot more people out there that really need to come forward about this man.
Well, his name was Shahar Jaman Mia, nickname of Sarge, one of 3 brothers jailed for a total of 54 years for abusing girls from the age of 6 to 15 years old in Leeds and Barrow. You were in Barrow, and you were 13 when this ordeal began?
I was, yeah. So if you notice in the media outlets, they do say that it was historic, and obviously he was convicted for historic offences. This carried on long after the time frame that they're giving. I don't believe that, you know, he woke up and thought one day he wasn't going to be a paedophile. He carried on.
Yeah, they do tend to, Ellie. Now, your harrowing story began, I believe, because you're from a loving family. You're famous for your love of horses. Nice pictures of you there. You were 13 years old, picked up off the streets and pushed into the footwell of a car by men who took you to dingy houses with grubby bed sheets. Filthy windows, filthy mattresses on the floor, and they plied you with booze and drugs and abused you. That's what happened, yeah?
Yeah.
So they took you out of your happy family, schoolgirl, horse-loving life and ruined it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they did a very good job at completely naffing over the rest of my life with the complications of the mental health that I've received from the torture of them. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine. So as this was going on, and this is the story that you hear from so many of the poor victims of these rape gangs, you just couldn't bring yourself to tell your parents or your teachers or anybody. And partly because Sarge and his mates threatened to cut your tongue out, cut your fingers off, got you into a terrified state. So apart from the fact, I would imagine you just felt you couldn't tell your parents about this for obvious reasons, you were also terrified by their threats.
Yeah, there was a lot of threats, some which included that if I said anything to anybody, especially my family, they would come after not only me but my family as well. At the time, I had a little sister 5 years younger, so I think I didn't say anything to protect other people, and initially protect myself as well from further violence that I was already receiving.
I mean, it's how awful for you. And how long did this go on for?
So it went on for 5 years.
For 5 years?
Absolute hell. So some days I'd be picked up in a car and I won't come home for a day. Some days it'd be 4 days. It varied all the time. You never really had a solid ground on that you could go out, be safe, typical teenage life where you could go out with your friends, you'd be in at 8 o'clock. I never had that because I didn't realise that they'd be round the corner or it'd be in broad daylight or I had to be somewhere for them, and it was just torture.
And what about your parents and your family? I mean, when you went away for a day or 3 days or whatever, I mean, they must have asked you questions, but you just didn't feel you could tell them.
I feel like my mum and my dad mainly, they used to try and, bombard me, concerned parents as they do, and, what the hell's going on and why aren't you talking? And I just had a complete switch up of personality. So whereas I was a really innocent, loved school, loved the horses kind of girl, I ended up getting into such an angry and upset and confused state that anybody that asked me any questions, I would be the first to lash out, snap. And I made it pretty clear that it was not to be spoken about. I didn't want any questions. I was dealing with coming home and having to process what had just gone on. So I'm gutted really now at my age that I look back and I think all they were trying to do was to make sure I was okay, and I was so reckless because of what I was being put through that I never gave a straight answer.
And you were going through a kind of hell that no young kid should have to suffer or endure. Now, how did it finally come to an end?
So one of my abusers had a child, and I think one day something in me just clicked, and I thought, surely I am not the only person. And my mind started going elsewhere to protect other people. So initially I knocked on my abuser's girlfriend at the time. I knocked on her house and said, you really need to know what's going on. I'm concerned for you. I'm concerned for your child. I gave her the layout of a house where I was trafficked. I ended up telling her what was where in a house. I think it frightened her a little bit, and she rang the police.
So she rang the police?
She did.
And then what, did the police come to see you?
Yeah, so I stayed at her house and I had officers come out and take a statement.
Yeah.
And then it was later no further action, and there's a bit of a blame passing at the minute between CPS and the police as to which one, you know.
So hang on a second, Ellie. You got no further action
Yeah.
after you told them, you know, probably the story that you just told me, but probably in far more harrowing details. You got no further action. What did the coppers say? Surely the coppers must have said, well, this is serious.
I think it was a silence factor. I think when I'd gone to the police and I gave them all the information that I could, I gave them locations, vehicles, registrations of vehicles, time frames. I poured everything into them with a little bit of faith that they were going to help. I was later then, within 24 hours, arrested on something that I was acquitted for 3 years down the line. They kept a case running for 3 years and NFA'd me in the time that they had this case running, saying that because I was charged with something else, I wasn't a credible witness for the abuse that I suffered.
And how old were you at this time?
17.
17. So it had been going on since you were 13.
Yeah.
And it's now 17. And you basically, I guess it's not accurate to say you were ignored by the police, but you were basically rejected by the police. They took the case to the Crown Prosecution Service, and the entire case ended up with no further action. Did you inquire? Did you ask anyone why it was? I mean, you said about the fact you were charged with something. Can you tell me what the other offence was supposed to be you were acquitted of?
Yeah, so I reported my abuse to the police on the 3rd of March 2018. On the 4th of March 2018, I was accused of blackmail. So I was arrested within a 24-hour period. They kept that case
blackmail of who? Sorry to interrupt there. Blackmail of who?
A local man. I had absolutely no idea what they were on about. I was sat in interviews saying, please understand, you know, please take my phone, please do this, please do that. They kept it running for 3 years, the case. They were appealing every time that the judge was saying something really isn't sitting right here. In the meantime, the judge ordered the Home Office to conduct a national referral mechanism, an NRM, which I came back double positive for. I really think that the police pulled anything out the bag to shut me up, silence me. I was constantly promised, you know, we're going to get a charge. It's, you know, we're going to do it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I found it to just be delaying me.
Yeah. So
just pretty much gagging me.
Just to cut to the chase, you told the police your story, and they ended up arresting you and not the rapists.
Yeah, so they did interview my abusers, but I don't feel like the interview was done appropriately because they never took any notice. In 7 years since my case has been NFA'd and shut down, I've took multiple things back as new evidence, and I've still been shut down. Luckily, we keep everything recorded and it with emails, but they really are just doing anything to make it seem like it stayed historical and it wasn't a present problem, and it is a present problem.
You're still, so you're still going through this now?
No, I'm not going through it, but I know that grooming is still an issue.
I didn't mean grooming. I meant trying to get justice, trying to find out why you were let down like this. Now, I gather that when your story emerged, was it at the time of the court case, that Jess Phillips, who is now the safeguarding minister for the Labour government, got in touch. You asked to meet her?
I did, yeah.
Well, tell me that story. What you just thought, because she'd done a lot of work about violence against women, so you got in touch with her. When was that, Ellie?
That was a few months ago. So I had actually heard on the grapevine that she was quite interested in meeting survivors, and, you know, she wanted to do anything that she could to help. Mm-hmm. So I did email and get in touch, and me and my dad were more than willing to sit down with her to, you know, advocate for survivors, to raise that awareness. She was all for it, and again, pretty much like the police, full of false hope. I'll do this, I'll do that. And we haven't even heard anything back months later about when she's actually interested in meeting. Just like a local MP that had sat there in a meeting that was recorded and said that the new victim and crime commissioner for the police has turned around to her and said, you know, he's absolutely disgusted in how my case was handled. He can't seem to get his head around it. But nothing's coming above the surface.
Mm-hmm. So, exactly, I mean, not exactly to the minute, but how many months ago did you get in touch with Jess Phillips?
God, I think my dad emailed her 3 months ago.
3 months ago. And did she email back, or one of her people email back? But she indicated that she was keen to meet you, yes?
Yeah, she did, yeah.
Was that a personal email, or was that from one of her staff? Do you know?
I think that was one of her staff.
Okay. And since then, nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing. Who is your local MP?
Michelle Scroggum.
Labour?
Yes.
And tell me a bit more about your exchanges with her. Did she get in touch with you, or you and your dad got in touch with
me
her?
And my dad got in touch with her. I wanted to ask why she had shut down a local inquiry. She has declined that. While I was there, I was trying to give her my points on, you know, this is what you need to do for the town. This is how you need to raise awareness. You're not doing enough. You're not doing this. You know, I was giving her plenty of ideas. As I say, every meeting, every email, it's all recorded. So we've always got everything solidified. And she was too busy sat saying, oh, well, I can't, you know, me and the crime commissioner have been speaking and we can't get our head around how your case has been handled. So disgusting. And I thought, you still to this day, I mean, that meeting was a month ago and there's been absolutely no updates, there's been no positive changes, there's been no outcomes of that meeting. It's been buried, pretty much.
So, just to recap, you got in touch with Jess Phillips, the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women, to tell her your story. People got back to you, very keen to meet you, and then you never heard anything again. Your local MP has been almost as dismissive, not much use to you at all. So this brings me to the real crux of this entire issue. How do you feel about the fact, well, back in January, you remember, we were promised potential, or the nation was calling for a national public inquiry into what actually is the worst sexual crime scandal in the history of this country. I mean, you are one of 250,000, an estimated 250,000 vulnerable young white girls, many of them underage like you were at the beginning of your ordeal. So the nation, if you recall, in January, give us an inquiry. We need an inquiry here. Oh, no, we can't do this. Tell you what we'll do. We'll give you 5 local inquiries. Now, that was nowhere near enough, because this was and potentially is still going on all over the country. So 5 local inquiries. So we kind of go, all right then. And then 2 days ago, very quietly, they tried to sweep it under the carpet. They cancelled even those local inquiries. Tell me what you feel about that.
I think they're very good at sweeping things under the carpet. They've seemed to, made a dirty habit out of that. I completely agreed with the national inquiry. I think they need to take a look at a bigger picture of these men don't just operate in one area. They're likely to operate in many areas. It would have given us all a better chance, a better acknowledgement. I really think that they pretty much use survivors as bait to say, oh, look, we'll help you. And it's like dangling a carrot on a string, saying, oh, well, we're going to help. And then, well, nobody's listening. It's all quick, let's get rid of that. And it's mocking us. It's disrespecting us. And I feel like, how can you not take sexual abuse in children seriously? It really grinds me.
Yeah, it's a very good question. But you must be furious as well.
Absolutely.
Try to sum up. I mean, explain why again.
Well, I think that there's 250,000 on an estimate. There's potentially many more. There's potentially many more abusers. Why can't they sit in local towns? Why can't they all work together to minimize this problem rather than saying just they're not interested? That's really what gets me. It's they're not interested. My question is, would it be different if it was their family members, if it was their daughters, their sons? They'd be pushing the boat to get something done. They're not interested when it's just people like normal working class people.
I mean, one of yours, this guy Sarge, I mean, at least he got jailed and everything, but I mean, what we're talking about in terms of justice for you and all the other victims, it's not just about arresting people and putting some people in court. And let's not forget, many of these guys got away with it and continue to get away with it to this day. But the justice, a kind of justice for you, surely would have been a proper, full, national public inquiry. At least then you might feel your story was being properly heard, but you've had that taken away from you, and now they're not even going to give you any local inquiries. So you must feel deprived of justice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the real justice starts when they stop seeing us as an object as well, that they can pass the buck and sweep things under the carpet and like nobody's going to know or nobody's going to click on or notice. I feel like if they had a little bit of compassion and humanity in them, they should really get cracking with this. And it concerns me that it's almost like they don't want things to come up to the surface. It's almost like they're hiding something the more that they're pushing it down. It raises a lot of alarm bells. Why would you deny something like that? Why would you cancel things like that?
So the point is you got kind of treated like nothing, like a subhuman by this awful gang with Sarge and his mates. I mean, you must feel now you're being treated like nothing yet again.
Yeah, I feel like I've been treated like nothing since the minute that I reported it, and I feel like the longer that it goes on for, and there's a lot of things in the public eye, you still treat like nothing. You're not, like I say, it's just basically dangling a carrot saying, oh, look at what we're going to do, and then snatching it away from us like we didn't lose enough. We lost childhoods, we lost mental health, we lost progress in our life, we lost a lot of things. Why can't you just do this one that's going to benefit the whole country?
Well, I couldn't have put it better myself, Ellie. Just a last question. Thank you so much for this, by the way. It's been very brave of you. I appreciate it. And I think it's important that you tell your story because this is what's got, your story is one story out of 250,000. Remember that. I'm sure you do. How's life been since you emerged from this darkness? Are you able to have relationships or anything like that? How is life?
I mean, I didn't even think that I was going to be here where I am today. There was many times that when I was going through my abuse that I thought, I'm not even making it out of this alive. I was, thinking the worst, thinking that my parents were going to end up finding the daughter. It was really awful. I am completely living my best life now. I've done everything that I never thought I'd be able to do. I don't look the same as what I did when I was going through my abuse. I did everything that they didn't want me to do. I couldn't have kids. They said I couldn't have kids. I've got kids.
Oh, great.
I couldn't have tattoos. I'm full of them. But it still does affect my relationships. I won't lie. I do, I suffer with complex PTSD, so I have got a great partner and I don't know how he puts up with me half of the time, but it does give you still that instability in life, but it's something now that I have to just get up and think, do you know what? At least I'm living in a blessing right now and I'm not where I was, and that's the way that I can move forward. I can be a voice for many other people that can't talk for whatever reason, and understandably, and as long as I'm breathing, I'll advocate for people like me.
Well, that's fantastic. And but I presume, that's brilliant what you just said. I'm so glad that you found a kind of happiness now. But I mean, you'll always live with what happened to you. That doesn't leave you, does it? That must be in your mind all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's triggers that come from day-to-day life that you wouldn't think came from day-to-day life, and you do always think about it, because I always have the question of why. You can never understand why you would do that to me, or why would you do that to. At the time I was a little girl, and I think you live with not only trauma from it and PTSD from it, but you also live with many questions that you're never going to get answered, and that alone is hard to deal with, because you carry a lot of shame, you carry a lot of I wasn't believed. It's hard. But I'm trying to think positive, and I also carry a voice for my generation, the younger generation, and hopefully if there's many people like yourselves, like myself, that can talk about it, it stays in the spotlight enough that somebody's going to have to do something.
Well, your voice is very important, Ellie. It's been very brave of you, and thanks again for coming on to the show. Let's keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That's Ellie Reynolds, victim of a grooming gang. Let's not call them grooming gangs, folks. They're rape gangs. That's what they are. Nothing else to say, is there? What a story. What a brave young woman. Let's go to break. We'll be back in a minute.
This is the sense of passport pilfering by the Home Office, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at a family of, two adults, 2 children, it's now a passport's going to be around £330.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount of money to add on to the increasing costs that we've got for holidays, VATs that are being increased for people across the country, and a burden that is not necessary if we actually reduce those people coming to this country across the channel.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to go back to West Yorkshire Police. That is the constabulary that yesterday we revealed on this show, courtesy of Isabel Oakeshott, is currently preventing white British people from applying to be police officers. Only ethnic people from ethnic community, people of colour, need apply. Now, the West Yorkshire Police says that it has looked into this, and they believe that they are perfectly within their legal rights to do this because, of course, like so many other people who've seen this story, it struck me this was racist, certainly discriminatory. Banning, in essence, banning people from applying to be coppers on the basis of the colour of their skin. That has to be against our racial equality laws. Now, West Yorkshire Police stress that they have looked into this. They could clearly see there might be problems here. Their lawyers have been into this. They've looked at the Equality Act, and they believe they're within their rights to bring about something called positive discrimination, which I call just discrimination, in order to redress the balance that in the local police force up there are only 9% of the officers are of ethnic origin, and yet the local community, 23% are of ethnic origin. So they believe they are within their legal rights to stop white people applying, so they can try and reflect the local community a bit more by an ethnics-only hiring policy. Whites need not apply. Now, to get the kind of legal angle on that, as I say, strikes me as pretty damned obvious that this is discriminatory. And while you might be able to argue it's within the law, the equality law, I bet you can also argue it's against the law, and I'm going to try and get someone to do that. Now, he is, of course, the brilliant barrister Andrew Eborn in the studio. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Always a joy to join you.
This is what West Yorkshire Police say. The most recent census found 23% of people in West Yorkshire identified as being from an ethnic background. Our current police officer representation of ethnic minority backgrounds is around 9%. To address this underrepresentation, we used positive action under the Equality Act of 2010. Our use of this was recently, you can tell they were worried about this, our use of this was recently reviewed by His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services in Activism. By the way, His Majesty's Inspection of Constabulary, I wouldn't trust as far as you could throw them, but they say it's been reviewed by His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, and impartiality, and no issues were identified. I think there are issues, aren't there?
There are very clearly issues, and this is a stain on British policing and must be reversed immediately. When you talk about reviewed by the fire people, well, this is absolute nonsense. The law is very, very clear. It's about proportionality. And what's happened, the Equality Act is designed to make sure there isn't prejudice. They've misunderstood what's meant by positive discrimination. And there's been case law on this, including furlough very, very recently, where they sort of turn around and say, what you've got to do is open it up for everybody, and it's based on meritocracy. It's only when you have equal candidates that you can turn around and say, well, actually, now we're underrepresented with a particular minority, we can then make that decision. You're excluding them far too early on in the process. And for me, it's fairly straightforward.
Well, when you say excluded, at the moment, white people are prevented from even applying.
Exactly. So that's clearly discriminatory. It's clearly wrong. They've misunderstood the law. And if that's the case, what they're talking about is the window, and the devil's always in the detail. They're saying, basically, what's happening, they can encourage non-whites, because of the misrepresentation or misproportionality at the moment, to apply earlier, year-round, than whites. That's what they're trying to say. Well, why? Why are they doing that? They've got to show that it's effective to achieve what's supposed to be achieved under the Act.
I think what we have to focus on, a lot of people say, oh, it's temporary. Well, how do we know it's temporary? The fact is, right now, if you're white and you want to be a copper in West Yorkshire, you can't apply. They won't give you the job. If you're from an ethnic community, you've got every chance of getting the job. So, I don't think you're a brilliant lawyer, of course, a high-flying barrister, but you don't have to be a brilliant lawyer to say this is discrimination on the basis of the colour of someone's skin.
Of course it is. And it doesn't fall within the exception. Because if you're excluding people even before you got to the interview process, there's very clear case law on that. I talked about the case of Furlough, again a police case, where they turned around and tried something similar. They said, you can't do it. So whoever's advising them is advising them incorrectly. It's so clear, you cannot discriminate on the basis of race at that stage. You say it's open to everybody. If there's basically a meritocracy, that's what you need to look at. If there are equal candidates by the time you get to the final process, then you might be able to do this positive discrimination under certain circumstances, but you need to justify it.
So, should a white person who applied to West Yorkshire Police only to find that they were prevented from applying, or that ethnic candidates were prioritised over them, choose to sue the West Yorkshire Police, they'd have a damn good case.
They'd have an excellent case, because what they can turn around, and there's all sorts of things, say, hang about, we've clearly been prejudiced against this, we weren't allowed to follow this process, and as a result we're entitled to compensation. And again, there's lots of rich case law about this, and it's not just that, it's the reputational damage, it's the lawyers' costs, which they're going to have to suffer as a result, particularly that runs into the tens of thousands about the new campaign and so on and so forth. And again, there are precedents. I would urge them to abandon this instantly. Trust comes in on foot and leads on horseback. They're losing the trust of the people as a result.
Well, they're desperate to be woken right on, but I would not be out of order to say that their policy is racist.
Of course it's racist. Of course it's racist. You turn around and say, you don't apply, you're white. I mean, that's racist. So you've got to turn around. I get it, but they've misunderstood. I get it. 23% of the population is non-white. For them, they've only got 9% of the police force.
I don't mind. I don't mind I don't mind that ambition. Although I do think that police officers should be chosen on only one basis:
merit.
Excellence, merit. Because this is a very important job. But if you want to have these quota targets, I'm not that energised by that. But this has spilled over into outright discrimination, outright racism.
And it's totally wrong, Kevin. It's exactly that. And again, the law is so clear on this. It's so clear. Say the positive discrimination, which is basically to try and redress the balance, it really is turning around on the basis that you get to the final stage, you've got two candidates, one's white, one's non-white, you're turning around, you have to justify it, say, well, that's when you do it. But if you exclude them early on so they don't get a chance of getting the job, it's wrong. They've misunderstood it and they need to repeal it immediately.
You'd quite fancy this case, wouldn't you?
Oh, take it on. I've never lost a case.
He's never lost a case. He doesn't like to mention that, but I don't think he'd lose that case. Andrew, perfect. There you go, folks. Barrister here, top barrister, never lost a case, is saying quite openly, quite directly that West Yorkshire Police, by banning or preventing white people from applying to be coppers, are breaking our equality laws.
So stain on policing.
This is stain on policing, discriminatory, racist. There you go. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Thank you very much, Andrew. Always a pleasure. We'll go to break now. We'll take a quick call, and don't forget, later on, in a few minutes, we're going to be talking to the great Sharon Davis. So stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're just going to take a quick call now and then we'll go to Sharon Davis after the next break. We're sort of running over a bit because we spoke to Ellie, the grooming gang victim, quite rightly in my view, for quite a long time. But quickly, let's speak to Vernon in Staffordshire. Vernon, you want to talk about the police policy of not allowing white people to apply to be coppers in West Yorkshire Police. You just heard a lawyer there, Andrew Eborn, just saying this is racist, discriminatory and against the law.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
We should be ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
So many things in this country, Kevin, at the moment are wrong.
Yeah.
The rape gangs.
Yeah.
Tell them what they are. Yeah. They are dreadful, dreadful people that should be behind bars. The people that allowed this to happen, police officers, constables.
Yeah. Yeah, teachers, also teachers, social workers, local councillors.
Everybody. They should be behind bars, Kevin.
But to go back to the police, I totally agree with you. And but to be fair, a fair few of them have ended up in prison. Some of them are still there, but not nearly enough. Loads of them got away with it, continue to get away with it. A lot of people say this raping, this systematic torturing and raping of vulnerable young white girls by Muslim men of Pakistani origin continues to this day. It's still going on, so you're right about that. But going back to West Yorkshire Police, how would it be if they sort of let it be known that they were operating a whites-only policy and black people of colour, ethnic people need not apply? How do you think that would go down?
It would go down, as you know, Kevin, with the Batley teacher.
Yeah.
How did it go down there? Yeah. The Trojan horse in central Birmingham, where boys were at the front of the class, girls at the back of the class. Sexual education. The parents of a certain community objected to it. You're going to have a beautiful lady follow me now, Sharon Davis.
Yeah.
What on earth has she got to put up with? Men playing in women's sport.
I know. Tell me about it. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. The Football Association has decided to allow blokes to carry on kicking the hell out of women in women's football, which is a joke. Vernon, I've got to move on because we lost so much time talking to our grooming gang victim, Ellie. Sorry to cut you short, but it's good to talk to you, and I do believe we're on the same page. Please call me again. Vernon in Staffordshire there. We're going to go straight to break now, and when we come back, Sharon Davis.
This is the sense of passport pilfering by the Home Office, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at a family of, two adults.
This has happened in 50 towns. So 5 local inquiries is going to potentially give partial answers to 5 of those towns. But what about the other 45? Secondly, local inquiries have no statutory basis, which means they can't compel witnesses and they can't compel evidence. So, of course, if you are a councillor or a council official who's been complicit in these horrible crimes and you can't be compelled to go to an inquiry, you're not going to go.
What a surprise,
Yeah, unbelievable.
I'm looking forward to going around, eating rubbish wherever I can see. By what date
does the council think it will have reduced the backlog, reduced the rat population, and returned our streets to an acceptable state?
Councillor Mummett, thank you to reply.
I myself haven't been up to...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight over to Olympic swimming legend and medalist Sharon Davis. Welcome, Sharon.
Evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Listen, I want to talk to you about this golfer, Abel Cabrera, who's playing in the Masters tournament right now, one of the great golfing tournaments, in my view, the greatest. And he's come to this tournament after serving 30 months in South American prisons, because he's from Argentina, for beating up women. But it's not so much, well, that's bad enough as it is. It's the attitude of the golfing authorities towards it that I think is cause for some concern. But we'll talk about that in a little while, because only today the Football Association has quietly updated its transgender rules, and I'm sure you're thrilled to know that blokes will continue to be allowed to kick the hell out of women in women's football. Trans women can carry on playing women. Real women in soccer. Yesterday, a feminist campaigner who's been on our show a few times called Jean Hatchett, she posted a picture on Twitter, on X, of one of her friends, a female footballer, who's a terrible bruises all over her legs, terribly swollen. And she said some bloke had done this. It was a trans woman footballer who, there they are, there's the pictures. So your thoughts on the fact that this can now continue courtesy of the wonderful Football Association?
Yeah, well, just dismay and disappointment as per usual. And it's the FA, isn't it? The FA have never had the back of women's footballers ever, and they still haven't got the back of them. I mean, to say that they are going to, keep this under advisement is just a cop-out. I mean, they're suggesting reducing testosterone to 5 nanomole. Well, that's 5 times what most females have, including elite athletes. There's no checking system in place. It's only got to be checked once a year, and it's only got to be done 12 months before you start playing. So once someone's gone through puberty, there is no I'm cooking that egg. It's already been cooked. They've created all the benefits. They're taller, they have bigger hands, they're more explosive. And what we find is a lot of the transgender athletes are in the goal where they can make the biggest difference, because obviously they're taller, they can fill the goal, and they can jump, much more dynamic. So it's cheating, all right? There's no other word for it than cheating. There is a place in football for absolutely everybody, and all you have to do is just play by sex like every other sport. We saw pool this week as well. We had a major pool competition, and we had 16 players. The final 2 were both males. They won more money combined than the other 14 women put together. And women only get 4% of the sponsorship dollar in the world of sport, across the world of sport. Okay, 4%, that's all they get. And now they're not even allowed to win that anymore. Last year, we had $1.6 million were taken away from women's prize money by men. And they're men, all right? You can call them trans women. They're trans-identifying males. That's what they are. And they will always be male, no matter what they want to call themselves, and no matter what they think they are, no matter how long they grow their hair or what clothes they put on, they are biologically male. And it's just so very unfair when women have such a small piece of the cake and they have to work so hard to get that. And I can tell you now, with my hand on my heart, Kevin, so many young girls are self-excluding because they don't want to end up with legs like you've just shown. They don't want to end up with knee injuries. They don't want to end up, getting an injury which might potentially end their sporting career. Or they just don't want to be made uncomfortable in changing rooms. They just don't want it. So they're not doing it. And parents as well are pulling their kids out of the sport too, which is also really sad because they don't want to see their daughters injured.
Well, the FA, the chief executive, Mark Bullingham, seems to be very pleased with what they call the new amended rules, which basically still allow trans women, blokes, to play football against women, but on certain individual cases, they'll review it and decide whether or not that particular...
You and I know that they won't do that, right? right? So if you've got a person, they're never going to side against that person. They're just not, you know, it's not going to happen. So it won't change. I mean, they're saying 20. We know that's not true as well. You know, we know for a fact they've actually okayed at least 75 males to play in the female game. So at the moment we don't have any on any professional teams, but we have quite a lot of them in sort of semi-professional leagues where we know where it makes a big difference. And we've also got trans-identifying males that are now running clubs, and they are then trying to stack their team full of males to play other females. I mean,
it's just absurd.
Ridiculous.
I mean, when they
So
say,
absurd.
but when the FA says, "Oh, we're going to do it on a case-by-case basis," and all that, and they seem to think this is a great step forward. Mark Bullingham, the chief executive of the FA, on his alleged new transgender policy, he said we are now broadly in the right place. Well, no, I would say, you know,
they're most definitely in the wrong place, Kevin. And what they're saying is that they're going to go and send somebody down to watch the game. So if you are a trans-identifying male and you're told there's now somebody from the FA watching to see if you are more powerful and more dynamic than the females on the pitch, what are you going to do?
Well, you're going to rail back your...
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to play a very light game. But the point is, there's only one broadly in the right place direction to go on. Not broadly, the right way to go. And that is to ban trans women from playing against women.
We don't want to ban them. We just want to say to them, play with other males.
Well,
you know,
that's what I meant. Ban them from playing biological women.
We just want to say the category is biological female, just the same as when we say the category is under 16s or the category is under 10s. You know, we do not allow a 16-year-old to identify as a 10-year-old and go and play with a 10-year-old. So we do not allow a heavyweight boxer to identify as a bantamweight and go and beat the hell out of a bantamweight. We have categories for a very, very sensible, obvious reason. It's the same with parasports. You know, it's the same across the whole of the sporting world. We have that so we can offer equality to everybody and an opportunity. Sure. And it's just women that are losing out because it doesn't go the other way.
Of course,
I mean,
of course
show me all the women that are identifying as men.
No, it never goes the other way. So now that Seb Coe didn't make it to become the president of the International Olympic Committee, does that mean at the next Olympics we're going to see that domestic violence championship again, where blokes climb into the ring and beat the hell out of women? Are we going to have to watch that again now?
No, I think we won't, because I think that the spectacle in Paris was so awful, and the IOC came out of that so badly, you know, and it was a travesty. It really was a very serious injury waiting to happen. A male can punch 160% harder than a female onto a less dense bone structure. So that genuinely was, you know, a very, very serious accident that could have happened. I think also we've got Trump, who's saying that he's not going to allow any males to be in female sport. I think the IOC do not want that whole situation to arise again. We've obviously just had Seb that's turned around and said he's bringing back cheap swab tests. So what they do is it takes 10 seconds, right? It's a cotton wool bud to the inside of your cheek. Yeah. You have it once in your lifetime because human beings cannot change their sex. And that protects the female sex. And that's what he's going to do with track and field. So I'm very much hoping that will come in for all sport at the Olympic Games in LA. But I'm hoping between Seb and Trump, that LA will be, you know, a fair Olympic Games and we won't have any more travesties. And then hopefully even the FA will have to eventually do the right thing and protect their female athletes.
It was so upsetting watching those poor women getting beaten up by blokes. As I said, it was like kind of the first time that domestic violence became an Olympic competition, an Olympic sport. Unbelievable.
And we've had quite a lot of injuries in other sports as well. You know, we've even had cricketers in this country, because the ECB is almost as bad as the FA. So they protect the elite, but they don't protect the pathways or junior. We've had 40-year-old men bowling at 13-year-old girls. One girl got her arm broken. We've had broken necks in America in volleyball, where the net is lower, but we've had males spiking into women. I mean, I could give you a list as long as your arm of injuries that we've already had. We haven't had a death yet, right? And that is the disgusting thing that they're almost waiting for. Well, I mean, we've had some very, very serious injuries.
Well, it'll be pretty disgusting if we have to wait for somebody to be killed for something sensible to happen in this area. Let's get on to the Masters golf competition. I'm a bit of a golf fan. Now, Angel Cabrera, he's getting on a bit now, but he won the Masters competition, the championship, back in 2009, and as such, all winners of the Masters are allowed to participate every year for the rest of their lives if they want to. Now, he's come back after a few years away. And one of the reasons he's been away was that in 2021 he was found guilty of numerous charges that included assault, theft, and the illegal intimidation of his former girlfriend. So he was a serial woman beater, and he did 30 months in jail. Now, my view on that, he served his time. I guess playing golf is his career. If you can go back to your career and you've done your time, then, you know, I suppose, I could go along with that. And I think I might be a bit sort of prejudiced here because I was a big admirer of Cabrera. But so he's playing in this tournament. A lot of critics have said he should have been banned. But it's not so much that issue that worries me, it's the attitude, and this plays into the attitude towards women in sport. The Masters chairman, called Fred Ridley, he called Cabrera one of our great champions, which he is, and he says he's been unable to participate in the Masters for the last couple of the years due to, ready? Legal issues. We certainly wish him... listen to this. We certainly wish him the best of luck with that, and we'll definitely welcome him back if he's able to straighten out those legal issues. It's the attitude betrayed in that statement. Doesn't really matter about the women. He's a great golfer. Let's hope he sorts out that little problem of going to jail for 30 months for beating up women.
Yeah, of grievous bodily harm. I think it was 3 women, wasn't it, that actually made complaints that eventually he ended up doing, prison time for. Yeah. I'm hoping he's extremely uncomfortable and embarrassed by the whole thing. I mean, I'm a little bit with you on this as well. I mean, I would like to have seen him being given a longer sentence. I don't think that they're getting, long enough sentence for beating up women. But then look what's happening in this country. We're letting out paedophiles and women beaters all the time. I mean, do you know that 1 woman every 10 minutes dies in this world at the moment by their partner killing them?
Really?
There's 2.5 women every week in this country alone. And that is the women that are murdered, all right? That isn't the women that are beaten up or coerced. That's just those that are murdered. So it's a huge problem, Kevin.
But are you okay with him being in this tournament? What I would
say is when someone has done their time, if they were a dentist or a doctor or a dustman or whoever they were, whatever their job was, then you would expect them to be able to go back to their job afterwards. You can't keep penalising them continually. It's just that this person seems, is in a very high-profile situation. I just hope that they're making it uncomfortable for him and that, people aren't really giving him an awful lot of time of the day. But like you, I kind of think that if he served his time, he served his time. Yeah.
You're right. It's an uncomfortable situation. It's not so much. I kind of think, in the end, like you, that he should be allowed to resume his career. But it's this sort of attitude. Oh, he's had a few little legal issues. It's a bit more than that, and it just plays into the inferior way that women are treated in sport, and we've got to do something about it, and you're doing as much as any human being can do on that front, Sharon. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. The great Sharon Davis, their Olympic medalist. When we come back, the great Kinsey Schofield, we're going to be talking about Harry and Meghan. You don't want to miss that.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of tonight's Political Asylum. It's been another, extraordinary show, I'd say. We've had some powerful shows this week. Last night, particularly powerful. More on the grooming gang scandal tonight from the very brave lady, Ellie Reynolds. You heard her story. She said that, the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women, that's her job, and she's done a lot of great work in that area, old Jess Phillips. So Ellie and her father got in touch, and they were told by Jess's office, oh, yeah, definitely want to see you, definitely 100%. Never heard from her again. Same for the local MP, no use at all, another Labour MP. All these Labour people, they're not doing enough about this, are they? They want it to go away. They want it to be swept under the carpet. They want us to stop talking about it. That's why they've axed all inquiries into it. We mustn't let them get away with it. Isabel Oakeshott was saying earlier that she's hearing through the Westminster grapevine that Labour may reverse their shocking decision and actually announce a public inquiry early next week. Let's hope they do, because in case they haven't noticed, the level of national fury about this is sky high. And unless they do something about this, they will never be forgiven. Jess Phillips has ruined a career, ruined her reputation by being a part of this bid to sweep the worst sexual crime scandal in the history of this nation under the carpet, because they don't want to upset the Muslims, because they want the Muslim vote, and also where most of these horrific events unfolded, where these 250,000 vulnerable young white girls were raped, abused, treated like animals, locked in apartments, chained up. You wouldn't believe some of the things that happened. Where most of this was happening, Labour administrations, local Labour administrations, where these girls, when they tried to complain, were ignored by social workers, by local politicians, most importantly by coppers. You heard what Ellie said. She kept telling the coppers, and it came back, there'll be no further action on her case. She was raped, she's countless times over many years, and the police, no further action. So this is why we need an inquiry. Justice for those girls, justice for the damn nation, to be honest with you. Let me know what you think. 0344499 1000. Now, we'll get to your calls fairly soon, but first, it's time to talk Harry and Meghan with our excellent royal commentator, the one and only Kinsey Schofield, over there on the West Coast. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. It's been a pretty busy week over here in the States for Meghan Markle. Unfortunately for her, though, I don't think anybody cares. I don't think anybody really
well, we care.
is that engaged. Yeah.
No, I mean, well, we need to obviously get into Harry and this increasingly excruciating legal battle he's pursuing against his father's government for police armed protection when he comes to Britain. I think this is his second appeal, and he just won't give it up. He keeps being told. The last judge said, listen, mate, he didn't say actually use that word, but he basically said, listen, mate, you're never going to win this case. You are wasting your time and your money. He's gone back. And the Home Office this time say that this is a case on Harry's part of a continuing failure to see the wood for the trees. So I suspect he's going to lose this case again. But before we get to that, let's talk, shall we, about the podcast of the week, the Confessions of a Female Founder. This is Meghan's second attempt to enter the wonderful world of being a podcast interviewer, and just as she proved during her first attempt, the Archetypes 12-part series got axed by Spotify. She can't interview. She doesn't listen. So her interviewee, this is supposed to be the story of female business tycoons, women who became terribly successful in the world of business. Her guest this week for the first podcast, for the first opening salvo, was Whitney Herd-Wolf, who founded Bumble, the very successful dating site. She is estimated to possibly be a billionaire. So she is very successful. This was supposed to be a podcast about the secrets of entrepreneurial success, how to be a success in the wonderful world of business if you're a woman. I don't think Meghan even asked her any questions about that. All that kept happening was, I don't think she even listened to a word that Whitney said. As soon as Whitney would utter some sort of response, and then Meghan would return to her favourite subject, herself, and just talk about herself. But also, as we feared, it's a pretty dry subject, and it's a pretty boring podcast, to say the least. Shall we, before I get your response, we've got lots of little excerpts from this podcast. Let's have a look at Meghan talking to Whitney about her career trajectory.
Want the conversations to feel relaxed and easy. Yeah. And also thinking about how I am just in it right now. Talking to people who've also been so in it. Yep. And have so many iterations, whether they've IPO'd or they're at the beginning of their climb, or they said, great, I'm done, and then came back.
Yeah, those things happen.
Those things happen. And then the evolution of that. So I want to talk about all of that, but I think when it's friends that are on with me, that we have such a deep personal relationship and connection and love, as opposed to starting with just where it all began for you, I want to start with where we first met.
I love that. Oh, God.
Yeah. As opposed to talking about you, let's talk about when I met you. That's what it is, isn't it? Now, again, let's just... well, look, first, let's get your view. You've listened to the podcast. I've listened to it now. That's 50 minutes or so of sheer tedium I'll never get back. Your thoughts on this extraordinarily tedious, dull podcast?
Well, Joe Rogan's not losing any sleep. Joe Rogan's not worried about Meghan Markle dominating the charts anymore. And it really gives you a good idea. It gives you some insight into the machine that is Spotify and the hard work they put into marketing her original podcast, the billboard they gave her in New York in Times Square, some of the placement, some of the media placement she had under the Spotify umbrella. You know, Spotify convinced us that something interesting was on the horizon, that something of value was on the horizon. So she did have more people tune in to the premiere of Archetypes, and she did for at least 24 hours throw Joe Rogan off of his podcasting throne. But here we have Meghan barely cracking the top 10. In Canada, in America, she's at 6, she's at 11. I believe in the UK.
I've got it here. So America and Canada, she came in at a disappointing number 6 in the Apple Podcast charts. In Britain, 11th, not very good at all, for an opening salvo. So these are the first weeks. Now in Ireland, I think it came in at 22nd. In South Africa, we're talking about 17th. But listen to Australia. It limped into the charts at 57th.
I get a lot of work in Australia. I'm not surprised by that at all. Me getting a lot of work in Australia translates to Australia's not a very big fan of Meghan Markle because Australia loves me.
Because you're not a very big fan either, nor am I, to be honest with you. But those are bad numbers. Those are bad chart positions for the introductory opening salvo of a podcast series, aren't they? Listen, this is what I'd like to... this is another excerpt from it. This is Whitney telling Meghan how famous she is. Listen to this.
That was the beginning, and that was even where I didn't think it was going to become a friendship that would also be in many ways the soundboard for me with work and business. And I was still in such an incubation stage, not even of a brand, but just an ideation of what it could be. And you always, I mean, think about so many times sitting there where you're like, okay, let's talk it through. Let's make a plan. What's the business plan? What do you want to do? What's your essence? No, wait, this could be right for you. And just helping me, whereas so many people, I think, often will make the false assumption that when someone is really successful, part of that success is because they keep it close, where really part of that success is because you share it so broadly.
Well, that wasn't her. That was Meghan talking about herself again. And as you heard, ideation. That's not a word. That's not a word. She doesn't speak English. She speaks Californian, doesn't she? Californian claptrap. And this is my favourite bit, Kins, where she describes what as ever, you know, her little bric-a-brac site where she flogs jam and other tat to make money, to turn herself into a billionaire, a cash cow, if I can put it that way. Here she is talking about her essence. Listen to this.
Creating your own thing. But I would love to talk about even before all of that. Before all of that, what was that voice inside? Who was that person inside that knew you had an entrepreneurial spirit or not?
No, I think that's amazing. And I will say, I do think your story is just you. Like, it's just an embodiment of you. And I always think that those are the best entrepreneurs, where they just basically, I don't know, it's like they bottle their essence, and that doesn't have to be a perfume company, right?
Oh my God, that keeps coming up. That's so wild. That's so wild.
Yeah.
You said that exact thing. Yes, your essence. How do you bottle your essence?
Yeah, it's like, how do you bring you to the world? And what's interesting, I've always said this about consumer products and technology. You can feel the DNA of the founder.
What are they talking about? Do you know?
I feel like they're just using buzzwords that they found on in hashtags on TikTok to try to sound like they're hashtag girl bosses. And you know what's sad is that one of those women actually is Whitney. Yeah. But unfortunately, she's got a terrible host that isn't engaging her in legitimate strategies or conversations surrounding the growth of her own business and her own path. I don't care about Meghan Markle's essence. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to it.
Well, but hang on a second, though, Kinsey. You must remember, this is a direct quote from Meghan, again, on this powerfully dull podcast, that as ever, you know, her jam-flogging lifestyle site, is that she now tells us is, I'm quoting here, an extension of my essence. What's that mean? What does that mean?
Processed foods, diabetes? I don't know. I have no clue. I'm not into it, though. I can tell you that much. First of all, so many people that I know that got the jam just to make mean videos about it, they secured the jam. Kevin, if all of these people I know that just bought it to be mean about it got it, yeah, then how much of a demand really was there is my question for you. Yeah. Because too many people that I know that bought it just so they could poke fun at it, that they secured it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've ordered some here on my show, The Political Asylum, and it hasn't turned up yet. I mean, we got the order was taken. We got some jam, I should say fruit spread. It's not allowed to be called jam. Not enough sugar.
Some loose fruit spread.
I think we got some. What else did we get? A shortbread mix or something, and some sprinkles, some kind of sprinkles or something. So we managed to nab a few items, but this was like a week and a half ago. We haven't seen anything yet, so I'm wondering if they got a distribution problem. But this podcast, though. Those chart positions are extremely disappointing, and judging by what we've been listening to, this sort of kind of word salad soup full of words like ideation. The ideation, it's an extension of my essence. I mean, you know, this is just crap, isn't it? It's boring crap.
I just imagine these two brushing each other's hair and, you know, in their pajamas. Nothing about this says I need to listen to this on a regular basis because it's going to help me grow as a person. Meghan has an incredible skill, aside from her calligraphy, which, you know, I am actually into. She has an incredible skill of surrounding herself with people that sit there and just ooh and ah over her greatness. I mean, it's incredibly impressive over the last few months between With Love Meghan and this new podcast that she has managed to find people that will sit there for half an hour to an entire hour talking about how great she truly is.
It's astonishing.
That's not good TV. That's not good radio. That's not good podcasting. There's, you know, I think that it's also not what she promised. She delivered, you know, a testimonial to her how wonderful she is when she promised us that she was going to give us some legitimate insight into how to create a brand and how to create a successful business. But we all knew that we were going to take it with a grain of salt. She's not a credible expert in this field because half of the product that she sold, when, you know, honey specifically, wasn't even available to the consumer, whose credit card information was gleefully accepted on her website. We are hearing rumblings about Snow Commerce, her e-commerce site that she chooses, having extreme problems with casual racism and their toxic workplace, which is two themes that tend to follow.
Well, that's a familiar theme, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, Kins, that you know, I don't know much in life, but I know a little bit about interviewing, and there's a pretty basic rule. When you want to interview someone, listen to what they say, listen to them, and respond accordingly. Meghan doesn't listen. She clearly does not listen. She allows a brief interlude for Whitney to Twitter on about something or other, and then just is ready to come back with more stories about herself. More stories about me. And that's why this interview doesn't work, because she's clearly only interested in herself and not really interested in her guest. But of course, Whitney, who is a very successful woman, she comes across pretty annoying as well, because they're two sort of Montecito neighbours, sort of sycophantically complimenting each other. Oh, you're so wonderful. No, you're wonderful. Oh, come on. You're more wonderful. It's just so...
It's so blatantly obvious when you watch any of these interviews. I'm going to give you an example. Daniel, the makeup artist.
Oh, God, in the first episode.
I think that she puts together a list of people and she puts together what exactly she needs from them. You're Daniel, the makeup artist. Well, I want you to talk about how much I worked for myself when I was coming up, how I contacted your representation and said, I don't have representation. I need a makeup person. So Daniel's on her show going, you were such a hustler growing up. You were such a hustler. You would call people directly and say, hey, I'm Meghan. I'm trying to do this for myself. So now Meghan got that story out of the way and she knows that can be converted into a headline. She looks at Whitney and she says, well, Whitney and I both had medical emergencies. I didn't like all the attention that Princess Catherine got during her cancer battle. I'd like some of that. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out my medical emergency. So I'm going to call Whitney in. So I'm going to call Whitney in, and it gives me an excuse to talk about my issues because I didn't like all the attention that Princess Catherine got. So now I get, even though I've told you guys I want privacy, my life is none of your business. You guys, you're too invasive. You nasty media, you're too invasive. I'm going to hand you on a platter a story about my medical history. Thank you, HIPAA violations. Yeah. So it's just like she finds people, and there's an ulterior motive with each one of those people. How can I talk about myself through
That was headline hunting, Kinsey. That's exactly what that was. They both, after the birth of their children, we didn't find out which child Meghan was talking about, but they both got pre-eclampsia, which is a kind of high blood pressure condition for which, of course, they have our sympathy. But it came across quite clearly as a sort of publicity stunt, a way to make the headlines, to make the papers, to get her podcast talked about. It kind of worked. The trouble is the podcaster was so dreary, it's just not going to work. I mean, we always thought it was going to be boring, but my God, it's more boring than we ever feared, we ever dreamed possible. It's so tedious.
But don't you think that it's so unethical to spend the last 5 years telling anybody that will sympathize with you that the nasty press has been so invasive and that their lives are none of our business, but you'll go do a reality show, you'll write a book called Spare where you give everybody else's secrets up, and then you want attention and you want sympathy over these medical emergencies that you just randomly announce in a podcast years later. Yeah. I'm not going to give it to you. I'm not playing your game. I'm done.
Exactly. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you know, it's that those two, Harry and Meghan, they want privacy, but only on their terms. And when they feel like it, they want publicity. I mean, it's like that South Park thing. We want privacy. We want privacy. Global privacy tour. The hypocrisy is palpable. It's ridiculous. Let's talk about Harry. Now, he just stole some of Meghan's limelight, really, by flying over unexpectedly to be in the London High Court this week as he continues, like a dog with a bone, this forlorn case against his father's government demanding armed police protection, automatic armed police protection, when he visits Britain on his own or with his family, Meghan and the kids, although I don't think Meghan will ever come to this country again. He doesn't get that because he's not a frontline royal, but he keeps suing, spending millions of pounds trying to get it. I think purely because William gets that and he wants the same as William. Now, it's such a ridiculous case. He's spending so much money on it because the British government are basically saying, and the police here, look, on a case-by-case basis, whenever you're coming over, if you're bringing the kids or you're bringing Meghan, particularly if you're going to go and see the King, get in touch, and if we think you warrant guns with cops, an armed police guard, you'll get it. But just tell us first. So the only thing he's suing about is he doesn't want to do that. He wants it to be automatic. And the only reason for that, because that's ridiculous, but that's what he's doing. He's spending millions just for that. The only reason for that must be that's because of what William gets. He wants the same as William. He wants that status. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yes, but I have a question for you. Have you noticed the evolution in messaging? Because the initial messaging coming from Prince Harry's camp was, we don't want taxpayers to pay for our security. We are willing to pay for our own armed guards. We just want access.
Willing to pay for the police. And you cannot treat the British police like your personal security watch. They're not available to hire. So that suggestion,
they're too busy throwing people in jail for mean tweets.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But so that was the original messaging. And have you heard this time around, the messaging has been that Prince Harry was given a different treatment than they singled him out. He received inferior treatment. They singled him out, this inferior treatment, and that's what they're fighting this time around.
Well, of course he got inferior treatment. He left the royal family. He stopped being a frontline royal. That's why he gets inferior treatment, because he has not got the same frontline working royal status as the rest of the family. It's as simple as that. That's why he doesn't get it. But it's such a minor point that he's clinging on to like a kind of rabid dog with a bone. It's so ridiculous because it's not that the British government or the police are saying we won't ever give you armed guards. On a trip-by-trip basis, if they think he warrants it, he will get it. He wants it to be automatic on every trip, and that's why he's wasting millions of his own dollars, millions of his own pounds, on a ridiculous case that he's been told is never going to succeed, and now the British government, the barristers for the Home Office here, the Department of Home Security, as they call it in the States, have said that this is a clear case on Harry's part of a continued failure to see the wood for the trees.
Well, I also stress it's millions of dollars of your money, of taxpayer money that's going into fighting this. And that's so completely unfair because we all didn't wake up and grow up in the gilded cage that Prince Harry did. Prince Harry has an unlimited income because he's selling his family secrets to Penguin Random House, Netflix, and anybody else that will listen to them, and you don't. So while you're being told that the prices over here are going up and the prices over there are going up, and you're having to fork more over to the government thanks to Keir Starmer, Prince Harry is just wasting your money and your dollars having an adult hissy fit on a global scale, and somebody needs to shut him down and put him in his place. I understand his father is ill. I understand his father is trying to keep his distance for his mental health as well as his physical health. But I do sometimes wish that Prince Charles or King Charles would put a boot in it and, just stop.
Well, let's just quickly conclude on that, because a lot of headlines over here that Harry flew in to London just as his father was flying out. Charles and Camilla, of course, flying out to Italy for their state visit. And people say, oh, well, the timing was all wrong. Well, that's rubbish. I mean, in fact, the day before Charles went out, he went for cancer treatment. The next day, he flew out to Italy. But, of course, Harry could have come over 2 days earlier and seen his dad. What we're hearing is his dad doesn't want to see him. He's had enough. He's drawn the line at his son's brat-like behaviour. And this court case, it's almost as if Harry has sat down and thought to himself, now how can I show the British people what a spoilt little brat I am? Oh, I know. I'll continue with this court case. And I think his father, like so many of us in this country, has now concluded that this old ginger nuts is a spoilt little brat and he's had enough. Now, also, last point, Kinsey, he's talking about, oh, well, I've got safety, my safety, I could be killed. Where's he flown out to now? Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine.
Yeah. That's safe, isn't it?
When he's not in Zimbabwe or wherever, it's unbelievable. Sometimes I think the most interesting aspect of Harry and Meghan is their complete lack of self-reflection and the fact that they are totally unaware of the way that their actions are presented to the real world. Yeah. So I have little to no sympathy for him. I think he's a moron, and I wish he would be productive with his life. It just feels like they spend so much more time complaining than they do spend or promoting a loose fruit spread than they do actually contributing something positive to the world, which is what they promised us upon leaving the British royal family, living a life of service. And it seems like they don't do anything today unless...
Self-service, living a life of self-service. Yeah, as you
unless
say...
there's a dollar attached or a camera crew following them.
Yeah, all of these grand plans to change the world, to run a massive charitable foundation and to work a service for humanity.
Yeah, how much of As Ever's sales goes to Archwell?
Well,
I'd like to know that.
Well, I don't know, but it's all come down to him sitting. It's all come down to him sitting in a London court like a spoilt brat, saying, "Give me what my brother has. Give me what my brother has.
I want 2 sausages."
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And Meghan flogging non-jam on a tawdry little website. So much for their grand plans. Kinsey, I wish we could carry on, but we talked for way too long as usual. Thanks so much. Have a fabulous weekend. We'll talk on Monday. That's the great Kinsey Schofield. We better go straight to break. Man, I am running over tonight. After the break, we're going to take more of your calls, and I'll read some of your messages and maybe some WhatsApp voice notes. So stay tuned.
this is the sense of passport pilfering by the Home Office, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at a family of, two adults, 2 children, it's now a passport's going to be around £330.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount of money to add on to the increasing costs that we've got for holidays, VATs that are being increased for people across the country, and a burden that is not necessary if we actually reduce those people coming to this country across the channel.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's have a quick voice note, WhatsApp voice note before we go to the phones. This is Anna on grooming gangs.
I think the rot goes right the way up, and I think they are terrified of what any sort of publicity will uncover, because it's like a domino effect. Basically, you arrest me, you show me up, you take me to court, I'll tell everyone. They are desperate to shut it all down and make it go away, and they won't, they can't, because people like me will not shut up.
Good, Anna. Good for you. And I think the entire nation won't put up with this. You're right, though. Labour just want this to go away. They tried to sweep it under the carpet in Parliament the other day, quietly, just trying to just... Oh, by the way, we've called off all inquiries into the rape gang scandal 45 minutes before Parliament went into recess, when there was hardly anyone in the chamber. How dare they do that? They're playing politics with an issue that they find embarrassing. Well, it doesn't matter about their embarrassment. It doesn't matter about the Muslim vote that they so cravenly desire. It doesn't matter about the fact that Labour authorities, who are usually the ones responsible for the goings-on that we've been talking about, the rape gang activities. None of that is important. What's important is that the 250,000 vulnerable young white girls who were victims of this terrible, terrible era of horror, abused, raped, drugged, groomed, treated like animals, tortured for years and years and years by gangs of Muslim men of Pakistani origin. That is what we need to know all about. That's what the urgency here is. We want justice for those girls. We want justice for the nation. So Labour, we must not let Labour get away with this. Let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. Let's go to the phones now. Talk to David in Newcastle. Hello, David.
Hey, Kevin. Nice to speak to you. Cracking show is normal.
Thank you.
I don't know whether you've actually seen it. I'm not actually even sure how old this actually is. But there was something came through on Facebook today, and a few of my friends said, have you seen this?
Yeah.
It was from Katie Lamb.
Oh, no, Kate, the one who made the speech in Parliament the other day.
Yeah.
It's 2 days ago. That was in response to the fact that Jess Phillips and her department called off all remaining inquiries into the grooming gangs. I've said, a very powerful speech by Katie there.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Go on.
The thing is, though, now the government sort of like backed up, we're going to have these 5 inquiries. I think the media should push them to do all of them.
Well, you may have noticed there, David, I've been doing my best. I'm not the only one, to be fair. I mean, the BBC hasn't even reported this story. What is wrong with them? They're not even reporting this. Why?
Unfortunately, they just like taking their money, don't they?
Well, they're part of the problem, I think. They're all worried about Islamophobia, being accused of racism and Islamophobia, because the villains of this story are Muslim men of Pakistani origin. Labour don't like that. They don't want to upset the Muslim community. They want the Muslim vote. And they're also embarrassed because where most of these horrors were unfolding, it was under the umbrella of Labour authorities. So the whole issue is excruciating for Labour. They want it to go away. They don't want a public inquiry because that would be even worse for them, but we mustn't let them get away with it.
Well, unfortunately, I will apologise to you now, Kevin. I don't know if I'm going to say this.
No, don't say it. Don't swear.
I'm not going to swear. Well, I don't know. It depends which way you take it.
No, you can't swear. What are you going to say, for God's sake?
I voted for these idiots.
Oh, that's okay. Look. You know, I don't blame you, David. You made a mistake in retrospect, but I think probably like most people, and you had every right to be sick and tired of the useless Tories. The Labour didn't win the last election. The Tories lost it. That's as simple as that. So, you made a mistake. So did millions of other people. But don't do it again, all right? David, I've got Castle. Let's go to break, come back, we'll take some more calls and some more WhatsApp voice notes. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Another WhatsApp voice note. This is Steve on the migrant crisis.
The only thing that surprises me about the migrant crossings is why they're still using dinghies. They know they ain't going to get caught or get stopped, so I don't know why they ain't just roaring up in like tankers or something in the hundreds. I mean, nothing's going to happen to them, so that, you know what I mean? That's what they would do if they could. Give it time, though, they'll probably do it.
It's a good point, Steve. A lot of them aren't using dinghies anymore. They're quite big boats. You got like 100, 150 people in some of these not so small boats. But the dinghies are still coming across, but they're by no means all inflatable dinghies. A lot of them are sort of much more sturdy craft than that. It's getting to be quite a big business. As I say, huge numbers of people crammed onto bigger boats than we think. We call them small boats, but some of them are not that boat. But good point, Steve. This is a message from a written message from Susan Strong. Susan says, these vile monsters, talking about the rape gangs, are terrorist rape paedophiles. They are non-human and need to be put away forever. Ellie Reynolds, that's the girl I interviewed earlier, is a hero of remarkable strength. What are these despicable subhuman monsters going to do for their redemption, if that is ever possible? It's not going to be possible. They will never be redeemed, and they don't deserve to be. They probably think they're going to some sort of Islamic paradise heaven. They're not. If there is such a thing, they're going straight to hell. Don't you worry about that. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Paul in Hampshire. Hello, Paul.
Evening, Kevin. What a show.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had quite a couple of nights. You want to talk about what Andrew Eborn was saying about the West Yorkshire Police? It strikes me, clear case of racism, discrimination. That's against our laws.
You're absolutely right, and I'm going to fess up right from the start. I used to be a director for ACAS, but now working as one of the much vilified, on very often on talk radio, HR consultants. Who get the blame for everything.
Well, no. Hey, everybody's got an HR department. We've got a big one in our company, so I understand the need for HR. But carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm teasing. So what I wanted to say was to add a bit on to what Andrew was saying. He was very entertaining and pretty much spot on. But there's something he wasn't referring to called positive action.
Well, they put that in West Yorkshire Police put that in their statement.
They do.
And they've clearly gone into the law, and they've got their lawyers involved, and they've worked out that they may have legal justification for what they're doing due to positive action. But as Andrew Eborn was saying, other lawyers could go into the Equality Act and quite easily say, no, you cannot do that. I mean, it comes down to this, Paul. Never mind positive action. People are being prevented from applying or getting a job as a copper in West Yorkshire because of the colour of their skin. That has to be illegal.
Is, and that's what I was going to say, just to add on to what Andrew was saying.
Yeah.
So the kind of things that positive action would be, for example, advertising the jobs in a particular place, holding open days targeted at people where there's a particular underrepresentation.
Yeah.
But what West Yorkshire Police have done, have you seen about this tier system that they've been...
the gold standard, the silver, and of course white people are way down there, lowly bronze category, yeah.
Exactly, and what they would have to do under the equality legislation is if someone took a case against them, and you talked about could somebody bring a claim earlier, yes they could, is they would have to prove, having put those tiers, those rankings on, that they did not use them to discriminate. Now, how are they going to do that if someone brings a claim? Because what was the purpose in those rankings if it wasn't to discriminate?
Yeah, exactly right. West Yorkshire Police, by the way, they are the wokest police force in all of Britain, spending £1.5 million on diversity roles. One diversity officer there, the chief diversity officer, gets 91 grand a year. So they're very woke anyway. But they would argue that what they're doing, only ethnic people need apply, is positive discrimination. OK, you can argue that, but what I would say is, no, it's discrimination. And that is against the law. They are stopping people getting jobs as coppers in West Yorkshire on the basis of the colour of their skin. And that has to be illegal. And as Andrew Eborn said, any barrister like him would love to take up the case of any of these white kids or white young people who tried to become coppers in West Yorkshire but were stopped because of this policy of ethnics only. Because they'll win that case. West Yorkshire Police, they're trying so hard to be woke and right on, and the result is racism. It's racism against white people, right?
Well, I wouldn't be trusting their lawyers with my business, but I'll tell you one other interesting thing before I let you move on.
Yeah.
A colleague of mine sat in front of some HR managers for one of the police forces that's been in trouble, and I won't tell you which one. Told them at one point a few years ago that what they were proposing with these discriminatory measures around recruitment and promotion was unlawful.
Yeah.
And their response, believe it or not, was, we don't care, we're set targets by the Home Office and that's what we're going to do, which I find absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I mean, that is shocking. I suspect it's kind of the attitude in West Yorkshire. They think they're doing something groovy and right on and modern and wonderful, but they're not. They're doing something that's racist. It's as simple as that. And I bet you they're going to rue this policy. They're going to rue the day they came up with this, because someone will sue them, and I think they will lose. Paul, that was a really interesting call. Thank you very much. Please give me a ring again. That's Paul in Hampshire. Let's go to break, come back. More of your calls, more of your messages. And I got one more WhatsApp voice note, so much still to come. Don't forget, Andre Walker and Ash will be taking over the helm of the Good Chip Talk at 10 p.m. and taking you through to the small hours, 1 a.m. I think Ash will be in to tell us what he's got lined up for our entertainment a little bit later, so stick around.
This is the sense of passport pilfering by the Home Office, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at a family of, two adults, 2 children, it's now a passport's going to be around £330.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount of money to add on to the increasing costs that we've got for holidays. VAT.
People are not necessarily comfortable making significant investments that are reliable on disposable income. And as we know, we're all becoming much more economically sensitive on our spend. The beauty about this, however, is recognizing from a UK perspective, this is spectacular news. Because when you look at the fundamentals of the tourism economy, which the UK very much is, it really does help in terms of strategically building the UK in tourism, because it's pushing people out of the main cities.
Well, the message from the White House is not mighty fine. The message from the White House is "Saul good, man."
Yeah.
So Saul good, man.
Yeah.
Saul good. Yeah. So look, who knows? That's all I got to say. Every
across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, let's go back to the WhatsApp voice notes. This is Chloe on police recruitment.
My niece and nephew are both mixed race, Filipino, white British, born here. If they apply to the West Yorkshire Police, as I understand it, they would be classed as gold material, and my white Caucasian children would be classed as bronze material. They live in the same town, they have the same education, they've had the same opportunities. Is it not patronising to class people with brown or black skin as somehow needing a leg up? It's divisive. Fortunately, my brother and I wouldn't fall out over it, but I can see some families it might cause a problem.
Excellent stuff, Chloe. I think Chloe quite often sends in WhatsApp voice notes, and they're always very, very good. So that one was as well as usual. Thank you, Chloe. Very good point. Gary Beals has sent me a message about West Yorkshire Police. He says all whites around the country should apply to West Yorkshire Police Force and then sue them when you don't get the job. Yeah, let's all do that, shall we? Let's all apply and see what happens and then sue them. James Mia has sent me a message. The BBC haven't even covered the story of the lawyers instructed by Hamas to take on the UK government. This is typical of the BBC. The BBC aren't covering the Labour's shelving, axing of the public inquiries or the local inquiries into the grooming gang scandal. Whole nation's furious. The BBC doesn't like that, you know. Ooh, that might be a bit nasty to Muslims. It's not nasty to Muslims. Most Muslims, Muslims are decent people. They're the same as the rest of us. You think most Muslims are going to turn around and say, well, I side with the rape gangs? Of course they're not. These people are not typical of Muslims. They just happen to be Muslims. They're Muslim men of Pakistani origin, and there was this very unpleasant racial element to it. They deliberately preyed on white girls. They liked that. Vulnerable white girls, often underage white girls, and that's another very, very disturbing element of all of this. So that's why the BBC doesn't cover it, because it might sort of like look a bit nasty towards the Muslim community. Well, as I say, I don't believe the Muslim community in any way support the rape gangs. Of course they don't. They're the same as the rest of us. So the whole premise of Labour's timidity about this, of the BBC's timidity about this, is false. It's false, I think. We mustn't upset the Muslim community. You think that there's 4 million Muslims in this country. You think that millions of them are all going, yeah, well, these Muslim Pakistani men rape gangs, we're on their side. Do you think they're thinking that? No, they're not. That's sort of, though, what Labour seem to be thinking. And Ellie earlier talking about Jess Phillips. Let me know what you think about that. Or let Ash and Andre Walker know what you think about that. Because, she tried to get in touch with the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women, Jess Phillips. The office said, oh, yeah, definitely, Jess wants to meet you. Well, definitely does. That was it. Never heard anything again. Tried again, never heard back. So that was Jess Phillips for you. This is from Scotty. You need to send Jess Phillips that interview with Ellie and ask Jess why she hasn't resigned, because she's a hypocrite. What an unbelievable young lady Ellie is, and she should be so proud of herself. She's amazing, and I can't believe what she has gone through in our country. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. And that is the very good point that Scotty's making there, that actually it's pretty certain it hasn't stopped. It's still going on. It's still going on. Young, vulnerable white girls are still being raped by Muslim men of Pakistani origin, rape gangs. It's still happening. There's another one from Dale in Salisbury talking about Ellie Reynolds, the victim that came onto this show earlier. What a very impressive, intelligent, brave young lady. Fantastic show. Oh, never mind me. Dale did say it was a fantastic show, but mainly, I agree. A very impressive, intelligent, brave young woman, Ellie Reynolds. Again, I thank her for coming on the show. Very brave of her, very important as well. And don't forget, her and her dad tried to get to see the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women, Jess Phillips. And, Jess definitely wants to meet you. Just disappeared. Jess, I'm afraid, has been swallowed by the government machine. And Labour trying to sweep this under the carpet a couple of days ago in Parliament. Absolute disgrace. Let's quickly get a call. Ash Gould's in the studio. We'll go to Ash in just... Hi, Ash, mate. All right, mate. We'll go to you in just a minute.
Get a call on.
Because I reckon that Debbie in Essex is going to be a lot more interesting.
Well, I don't know about that. But
yeah, she will be. She will be.
See how it goes.
Debbie, you've got to be more interesting than Ash. That won't be difficult. She's gone.
She couldn't compete. She
wasn't more interesting. She wasn't there.
As soon as you said that, she just thought, well, I can't win this one.
Yeah.
But what a disgrace, putting that thing under the carpet, the report, the investigation into the girls who... Hundreds of thousands of white working class girls have been raped and tortured, and they're ignoring it for votes. Not even, they say it's, for the sake of diversity, which is bad enough, but that's not really that.
They're terrified of the Muslim vote.
How evil is it? It's like they're an accessory.
Debbie's back. Let me speak to Debbie.
Let's see if she is.
Hi, Debbie. Sorry, we lost you there. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well.
I was only calling when I came in from work tonight. You was talking about again, I've got to say...
You're talking about the parole board, people who committed serious crimes being released.
Oh, there were so many things that have gone on tonight. I've almost forgotten what I called you for. There was there's a lady that's been put in prison for 31 months for ridiculous tweets.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Lucy Connolly. Lucy Connolly, the
this stupid, ridiculous bloke who's been out twice.
You're exactly, Debbie. You're on the money. You're exactly right. Well, people like Lucy Connolly, who's no threat to society whatsoever, she sent a stupid tweet, arguably racist, a bit incendiary during the summer riots. She gets 31 months, 2 years and 7 months. Meanwhile, they're letting out rapists, they're letting out murderers, and the parole board can't wait to release anyone who's dangerous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Two-tier.
Oh, no, it was only released in January.
I know. Oh, the murderer guy, old Jake Farry. Yeah, exactly. I just say throw away the key. But they won't. They'll let him out. It's ridiculous, Debbie. Debbie, got to go because the show's nearly over. Give me a call tomorrow. We'll have a proper chat. You didn't get very long then, did you?
They've used Lucy Connolly as an example, haven't they?
See you, Debbie. Call in tomorrow.
Debbie. No cigar. I think she...
Yeah, she was more interesting.
Well, it may be, yeah.
But then again, that is never difficult.
They used her to show what they'll do to us if we talk up about anything, Lucy Connolly, and they're clearing out the prison spaces now because they're worried about what they need to come down hard. Because, that Professor David Betts said, there's going to be civil war within 5 years. And he's an advisor to governments, and... they're
pushing their luck, aren't they? This thing with the
national... he says it's inevitable.
The rape inquiry, the whole nation is absolutely furious.
Rape and torture.
We've got to have an inquiry.